The agenda is about to begin. Please allow me to invite the host and lead us through the upcoming session.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicole Zhang. Right now, I'm the chairperson of AI Foundation, but actually I'm the former chairperson of National Communications Commission Taiwan. And it's my pleasure and honor to be the moderator this afternoon first section. I know it's very difficult for our audience, especially in the very first section in the afternoon, but I think the topic today is very important. Everybody talks about AI, right? AI has brought advantages to us, but beyond the technical aspects, the emergence of AI has raised many new issues, especially the legal policy and the regulatory challenges, broad and complex in scope. So many different vertical and matrix scopes. So one of the biggest challenges brought about by AI is the question of trust. As technologies are being deployed across various sectors, cybersecurity is primary condition for trustworthy AI. AI may open new avenue in manipulation and also be manipulation and attack methods. A little bit. As well as new privacy challenges. There is a close relationship between AI and the data governance. For machine learning algorithm to be effective, it is essential to have relevant training data and to control this learning process to avoid any bias. AI also presents a double-edged sword in the fight against fraud and scams. That is the main topic of this afternoon first section. On one hand, AI-powered tools like deepfakes enable the creation of highly convincing content that could be misused for the not so good purpose at the proposing significant threats to individuals and the societies. On the other hand, AI can be powerful ally in combating the threats by accelerating abuse detection and the scaling up fraud prevention efforts. So this workshop aims to explore how AI-generated threats like deepfakes impact users and discuss the emerging countermeasures. It will also delve into the role of governments, companies, and civil society in promoting responsible AI development, mitigating risk, and fostering a safer online environment. Experts from various stakeholders will share their insights and experience, providing a comprehensive overview of the challenges and opportunities in tackling fraud and scams in the age of AI. So the guests today include experts across stakeholders communities, and they are here today to share their experience and expertise. Let me introduce one by one, and please, when I introduce you, please on the stage. The first is a special guest from our Ministry of Digital Affairs, Yi Jinglin, Deputy Minister of MODA from Taiwan. It's on behalf of the government, right? Okay, the second one is JJ, Head of Information and Content Policy, APEC, Government Affairs and Public Policy from Google. And the third panelist is Jennifer Zhang, Head of Legal, Greater China, Senior Director and Associate General Counsel, Asia Pacific from Meta. And the first panelist is Joanna Octavia, a researcher, Safer Internet Lab from Research Institution and the Civil Society. And the last one, Edmund, our old friend, CEO of Asia organization, and also right now serve as the ICANN board director from civil society. Okay, our distinguished panelists will have 10 minutes for everyone. Every panelist will have 10 minutes to share their insights, then we are going to the Q&A. So I will going to invite the Deputy Minister Yi Jinglin. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Can we show my presentation? Where? Oh, okay. I see it. Okay. Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Yi Jinglin. I'm the Deputy Minister of Digital Affairs in Taiwan. And today I'm going to talk about fighting AI fraud with AI technology. Next. Can I control the slides? Okay. Okay. We know that anti-fraud is going to, fighting anti-fraud is going to be a long war because the con artists would find new ways to con people and try to steal money from normal people. And the government and or the good guys, we are going to find ways to prevent them to from stealing money from the people. And then the better guy will find new ways. So the first thing we have to do is to know our enemy. And here we can see a typical workflow of con artist. Actually, there's no pointer. No. I just want to point to part of the screen. Where is it? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Or maybe I can. Oh, I can have my presentation here. Okay, it's easier for me. Okay, so the con artist will start your work by posting an article or some ad on Google, on Facebook, or on Instagram. And as here we can see that on those open platforms, most people are good guys. But there are some better guys, the red ones. And then they will try to con people into some closed chat group. Usually it's Line in Taiwan. And then inside this group, most of the people are the bad guys. And only one or a few are the victims, actually the potential victims. And then they will try to con people, the victim to another one-to-one chat. That's in Taiwan, usually that's Signal, WhatsApp, or Line. And then here is the transaction being made. They will make some proposal asking the victim to invest in some, say, cryptocurrency or some, some investment. And then the money will be transferred. Okay, and then after the money is transferred, the bad guy will try to launder the money or use some cryptocurrency to transfer the money, so the police and the government cannot trace them down. Next transparency, please. Next page. Okay, and the typical trick, as we know, is impersonation. The con artist will pretend to be some famous entrepreneur like Mr. Cao Xingcheng in Taiwan, or they will pretend to be the founder of Tesla, Elon Musk, and they will say, okay, since I'm a successful person, I earn so much money and I want to share my knowledge to everybody to reward the society, blah, 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 and then try to con people into the closed group. Next, please. Okay, so how do we deal with this kind of online fraud? They have their workflow, and we, government, have our own flow. So we are building a system so that we'll use AI to scan the articles and ads on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. And if we find if we find them suspicious, then we'll try to report to the platforms and ask them to remove the ads. Why? Because in this kind of workflow, once the money got in, once the people got into the closed group like Line or WhatsApp or Signal, the government cannot monitor the situation. These are closed group. The government can only see this part and the right-hand part. And if the victim already got into this stage, it's too late. The money is already gone. And it is very difficult for the police department to get money back. So the Ministry of Digital Affairs in Taiwan is trying to build a system so we can find out the suspicious ads and article and tag those articles. Next, please. Okay, and this is our workflow. So we are going to build a system. Actually, we already built the website. We are testing it. So in the future, this process will be semi-automatic. We still need some people to do the double checking, but we hope to use AI to scan the internet and find all the suspicious articles. Next, please. And this is the AI system we built at the Ministry of Digital Affairs. And actually, this is a press conference about 1 month ago, and we present our system, and this system will scan all the traditional Chinese articles on the internet, and on average, we'll find 5,000 to 10,000 articles on the internet every day, suspicious ones. And we will send all those information to Meta, to Google, or to Line, and ask them to verify, and if there are scam messages, they will be removed by them automatically. Okay, next. Oh. Okay, and the third strategy is that we are going to work with the private sectors. Last year, our ministry formed an alliance with some partners in the financial industry in Taiwan. There are 35 banks formed an alliance, and they exchange information about the online scams. So if some con artists are doing some suspicious activities that look like money laundering, they will inform each other, and we will freeze the money until it is cleared. And last year, the alliance saved 360 million NT dollars. That's a lot of money. But unfortunately, according to the police department in Taiwan, last year, Taiwanese people lost 8.8 billion, that's billion, NT dollars to the con artists. That means that the con artists have a lot of money to hire more programmers, to get more computing power, to create more fraud messages on the internet. So we hope that we can make this into an industry. If the bank can offer more secure service, then customer will put their money in these banks, and these banks will earn more money. And if they earn more money, they can hire more good guys to work as programmer, and also they will get more computing power, and they will develop new AI technology to fight the AI fraud. Okay. That's it. That's our basic strategy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Our Deputy Minister, he shared about the strategy of Taiwanese government, how the Taiwanese government integrate multiple stakeholder approaches and different strategies to combat the scam and the frauds. I think we all got a very great impression that fight AI fraud with AI. So that's the approaches adapted by Taiwanese government. Thank you, our Deputy Minister. And I would like to invite our second speaker, JJ, from Google, to share your experience from private sector point of view.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, everyone. And good afternoon, everyone. Really glad to be back here in Taipei. It's okay. Do you have a microphone? That's here. I'll try to just change here, so you know there's a bit of a rhythm to this. I wanted to. So I'm based here in Asia Pacific, but I'm the global lead for public policy issues relating to scams at Google. And I wanted to take the opportunity today to share with you how Google looks at the issues of scams and fraud, how we try to tackle them, and then look at it in particular from the perspective of AI, both the challenges that AI poses and the opportunities, as we were starting to talk about. If we go next slide. Whoops. Sorry. Okay, I'll go for that. There you go. That was, Minister, you were correct, of course. So I'll talk a little bit about our strategic approach to tackling scams and looking at some of the emerging challenges that are posed by the misuse of new technology, in particular AI, how we try to tackle those misuses, but then increasingly how we're trying to really change the dynamic and use AI for our own perspective. And then I'd like to conclude with really highlighting what we can do as a multi-stakeholder community to fight these issues. Next slide, please. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Next one again, thank you. So, core to the mission of Google is really information, is the quality of information. That's what our business is really founded upon since 1998 when the company was created. And so, misinformation, deceptive information is very much the antithesis of what we do, something that we've been trying to combat for years. Next, please. And we've been doing this, especially in the context of scams and fraud, through 3 pillars. The first one is the one that I guess everybody thinks about. It's protecting users from harm, taking down the bad content. But probably as important, if not more important, is to deliver reliable information, to ensure that when people enter a query on search or they search for material on YouTube or other platforms, they have access as much as possible, not just to the information that they want that is relevant, but useful, good quality, trustworthy information. And then the third pillar is how we work with the ecosystem, how we partner with stakeholders across industry, civil society, or government agencies in some cases to solve this problem in a number of ways. Next, please. And we've been working on this for many years. Right? Many of you will be aware of the efforts we've been doing on Gmail using machine learning now for over a decade, so much so that you and I, as Gmail users, if all goes well, we should be almost immune to spam messages and phishing. You should have very few actually turning up in your inbox because we've been working at it for so long. We've got such technical measures. And we've been building similar defenses into our products, doing safety by design, building features directly into our products so that you are protected across the various platforms, whether it's scanning Play apps to ensure that there's no malware distributed, search where we have our search quality ratings that help us to remove bad content or low quality content, elements such as safe browsing that protect you from bad websites, and then an increasing number of supporting acceptable use policies such as ads verification, which means that we're trying to constantly improve the quality of the publishers of advertising on our website. A lot more work to do, however, we know our work is never done, so we continue to invest in people and processes, in technology. We'll come to that in a second. And if we go to the next slide, I'll move on. This is obviously just a very quick overview. I'll move on to talk briefly about the misuse of new technology. And unfortunately, scammers, fraudsters have existed pretty much for however long human interactions have existed. In fact, the first scam reported in history dates back to 300 BC. Right? It was an insurance fraud in ancient Greece. And every time there's been a new technology, the scammers have taken advantage of it. Today is no different. Whether it's the internet at large and digital technologies 20, 30 years ago, to nowadays artificial intelligence that's much more widely available, we see the bad actors taking advantage of it. And it started. I think we're all pretty much aware of things like deepfakes, manipulated media. This is technology that actually can be used for totally normal purposes, right? If you think about creating a movie, for instance, or creating a piece of content, that technology, AI-aided creativity, is a good thing. You're manipulating media, that's fine. We've been doing it with filters on our cameras for 50, 60, 70 years. We're just doing it in a more advanced way today. But obviously, there is a way for bad actors to misuse that. And to misuse that for purposes such as disinformation and a very related deceptive practice, fraud and scams. And we've seen that with public figure impersonation, for instance, politicians, famous actors, celebrities of all kinds, whose image, video sometimes has been misused with the aid of AI to con people into scams. And then there's other uses of AI that scammers are starting to use, and generally cyber criminals, which help them to basically be faster, have more reach in disseminating their bad activities. But we're trying to address that. So next slide. First, and I think this is really a point that's important to us, is empowering users. How can we really help users in the wider ecosystem? Well, one of the things we try to do is to give more context to users. So it's giving them access to more reliable and relevant information wherever we can, but also more detail. So for instance, when you see a picture on Google search, for instance, you can click the 3 buttons at the top and you have details about this image. It might tell you, it will recognize where this image has been taken. It will tell you if, for instance, an image that is reported to have been taken a few days ago in a current war zone, for instance, but in fact have been used 7 or 8 years ago, as is often the case in disinformation. We've seen that. And increasingly what we're trying to do is to develop and share technologies such as watermarking to identify when a piece of content has been created by AI, so that users are aware where Gen AI has been used, that they are looking at a piece of fabricated media, to try and diminish the impact of how AI is misused, and really put the control and the power in the hands of the user as much as possible. Next slide, please. I was mentioning public figure impersonation. We've not only made sure that we updated quite quickly our acceptable use policies to reflect that impersonating public figures and celebrities was harmful, and ads that fell into that category would be removed, but we've worked on technology, which we keep on trying to improve, to help identify this. And the way we do it is through so-called classifiers, where you actually use, increasingly actually, machine learning and AI in order to catalog pictures that have been manipulated of celebrities, and you can quickly identify them, tag them, and take action again when they resurface on another part of the platform, for instance. Next, please. Something we've been doing for a while. This is actually, this dates back, this is on deepfakes, but dates back to 2019, the particular example that you see here, but we've been doing much more since. We share things like data sets here to help with the detection of fake audios. Right? We share that with researchers so that they can develop their own databases, more technologies, etc. And that's also something that we think is really important. And when we think about multi-stakeholder cooperation on these issues, this has to be dealt with as an ecosystem. If we want to be truly effective, we have to work together to tackle these issues. Next, please. Another way that we collaborate is, of course, on online safety education. The example I've got here is in Thailand. Hopefully, every single one of you, from whichever country you're in Asia-Pac or elsewhere, you will have been exposed to one of our online safety campaigns, right? Certainly here in Taiwan, we've been glad to support various activities, such as with the Taiwan Fact Check Center, on things like disinformation. You will have seen that. We're doing that for scams. We plan to do far more in order to combat these issues, including on to help users really understand the impact of the misuse of AI. Next, please. And the thing that really excites nerds like me, and especially our cyber engineer nerds, is, yes, we're conscious of the fact that new technologies like AI can be misused by fraudsters, but we can actually hopefully turn the table against us. And in fact, the experts are telling us that AI could be a game changer, because with AI, we can go much faster at our fight against the criminals who are behind scams. And I think that's just a quick emphasis here. We're talking here about criminals. This is not like maybe other areas of online safety where it might be an individual user out there that's doing something wrong, right? That might be unwittingly posting something bad on the internet. It's bad and it should be removed, but you know, they're just normal people. This is scams. This is organized crime, and it's often linked to the wider organized criminal networks. This is again another reason why we need to do this as an ecosystem. we, industry, need the help of law enforcement and government agencies, and we need those law enforcement agencies to work across borders, to go to the countries where the perpetrators are, to make sure that we have treaties in place that enable the extradition of those criminals, that enable litigations to be done effectively across borders. That doesn't happen now. So you can place all the blame you want on digital platforms, but if you're going after hardcore criminals, you have to have law enforcement and government agencies also doing their bit. So legislation should help as well, not just penalize platforms. So next, please. So on how we could use AI, just a quick heads up. We've been using machine learning for a long time in things like content moderation, and I mentioned Gmail earlier. And that helps us in particular for scale. When you think about content on platforms, YouTube gets 500 hours of video uploaded on its platform every minute. Right? So imagine if we had to have human reviewers for all that, but we have machines that can help us identify bad content at scale, review that bad content at scale. So we've been doing that for years. We've been learning a lot, and our machine learning models keep on being trained, improved, refined, so that we're better and better at finding the content and at removing it faster, so that users get the least exposed to it as possible. Next, please. I'll be almost finished. And that's an important part of what we do. When people flag content to us, we also have automation that helps us. That's machine learning and increasingly advanced techniques. And then on the side of that, underneath it, the way you classify content that, for instance, has already been flagged and found to be harmful, you use machine learning technologies to process all that data much faster and to detect abuse at scale. Next, please. And then I'm getting into some of the more recent developments. Your detection is going much faster. You can collect and label, abuse content, classify it. You can tune large language models to identify new abusive content, deploy that model to detect abuse at scale, and then send a feedback loop, and the model learns and goes faster and faster. And almost the last slide, next. Thank you. Large language models, they've only become more widely available in the last couple of years. They are truly transformational, and they're transformational also for cyber defense, including in the area of scams. They can review and interpret content at much higher volume yet than what we're already doing with machine learning. They can be, it's not just a question of scale, it's also being able to be much more precise about the type of content and the decisions that they help us to make. And they can be much faster, and yet be faster with less data if needed. So together it's a game changer, we hope, in how we can identify and deal with bad content such as scams and fraud. And next, I think I have the last one. A couple of examples quickly. We can also develop specific tools. We've done one. Google Cloud has worked with the bank HSBC to develop a special AI powered tool that helps to fight money laundering. It's currently with HSBC. We'll see if there's more we can do with the banks in that nature. Again, is to be able to both detect and take action much faster against money laundering. Next. Promise, I'm almost done. Multi-stakeholder cooperation, that's the most important part since we're at an IGF, but also because this is how we should deal with internet issues all the time. As a multi-stakeholder partnership, this is a way the internet has been working for 30 years and very well and very effectively, as many of you in the room know. And this is one of the ways in which we can win in this space. Next, please. We're already partnering with government agencies, with industry, in areas such as synthetic media or deepfakes, for instance, to develop standards that can work across the ecosystem and help users. We'll do more of those. And we're looking to do that across the broader range of technologies and technical measures that can help us to fight scams across the board, not just deepfakes. Next. So that's the concluding slide. Thank you. I just want to say, just to finish up, we're committed to fighting scams, right? It's got no place on our platforms, not helpful. It breaks the advertiser ecosystem. It's no good for the ads industry. It diminishes the brand reputation. Bad for business, bad for users, bad for us. So it's something that we've been working on for many years. We're going to continue to work on, to innovate, to invest in, to make good use of new technologies. And again, we're really hoping that we're going to be having a step change here thanks to AI in fighting cyber criminals and scammers. But we're only going to be effective if we can join forces. If we can combine technical measures, awareness raising, and have a very practical initiative as a community. Industry, government agencies, civil society, together empowering users. Having users that are informed, that are just a bit more aware about scams and also have good practices in mind. They've got tips in mind about how to avoid being scammed. And that we cater to users of all ages, whether they're young or seniors or other. And let's work together on this. I think that's the sort of practical initiatives that we can and should put in place. We've got some good experience here in Taiwan. We've done a lot on mis and disinformation. I think we can do the same on scams here and elsewhere in the region and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you, JJ. You should have 1 hour to present. Anyway, JJ has shared the Google's approach, especially to promote the quality of the content and to tackling the scam and the fraud, including links to the Google's responsible AI, and also share how Google collaborate with the community to implement anti-fraud strategies in Taiwan and especially in the APAC region. Thank you, JJ. And next speaker, our Jennifer from Meta.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to take the... I realize now this is the place to stand. So, okay, I'm going to stand here as well. Hi, everybody. Just to start off by introducing myself, my name is Jennifer Chan. I am from Meta, and I'm based in Singapore. Very, very happy to be here in Taiwan and to be here with all of you. And of course, just really great to see all these old friends, right? Particularly Nicole, like moderating the session today. Nicole had mentioned that she used to chair NCC, and we've had discussions over the years on all the online harm types. My role, I lead content from a legal perspective across Asia Pacific, and online harm is very unfortunately an issue that we've grappled with as long as the internet has been widespread. Someone likened like a technology like the internet to essentially a kitchen knife, where you could use a kitchen knife to basically slice food and prepare food for you and your loved one and nourish yourselves, and you could also use it to attack. And it's very unfortunate that like this dual use of a tool is exactly what the internet is. And so JJ talked a lot about like what Google is doing, but I really wanted to take us to the topic of today's session, because we talked about from innovation to impact, and I really wanted to start off, this being IGF, to start off with an innovation angle. So AI has been core to Meta and our technology for over 10 years. In the last year, because of the advent of like generative AI-powered chatbots, everybody talks about generative AI. And it feels like in the last year was when this word AI went into the popular imagination. But I want to say that AI is not new. It's not new to any of the tech companies, and it's not a new investment. It's not a new technology. It is a developing technology that changes a lot. Meta has invested in AI for over 10 years, and it is core to our products, and it is core to our innovative spirit. I wanted to also talk a little bit about the way that Meta approaches AI from a responsible AI angle. We have 4 pillars, and I feel like these pillars are not, in any way controversial, and probably, whether it is private industry or governments or civil society stakeholders, these 4 pillars should resonate. The first being obvious, that when we talk about AI, and especially when we talk about training large language models or the use of AI from a cybersecurity lens, we care a lot about privacy and security. Meta has very robust privacy review process, and the use of all our products, the training of our large language models and our multimodal models, we adhere stringently to these processes where we review, we assess, we risk mitigate, and we document. The second pillar is about transparency and control. And I think that this is a very dominant, recurring theme when we talk about integrity issues online, which is everybody wants to be online, everybody wants to utilize what is online, and everybody wants big companies such as Meta, Google, and some of our other industry peers to be transparent. We hear you, we think it's really important that we respect like the user's controls, that we provide you with the tools for controls, and that also that you feel that whatever we're doing, the policies that we are writing the way in which we are enforcing and the way in which we are engaging is transparent. So that is a big part of like the meta philosophy. There is a lot of common criticism about how algorithms are a black box. That nobody knows, when it comes to AI or machine learning, what is the algorithm? We want to dispel that common misconception. Meta has published over 20 system cards that delves into our algorithm and our machine learning and and how it actually powers our apps and powers the user experience. It's all freely available online, and we will continue to do this. We will continue to publish. We'll continue to strive to lead on transparency. Now, the third pillar on robustness and safety, that is my bread and butter. I was hired to start, to establish, to build, and to lead the content function in Meta in Asia Pacific. And we all know that Asia Pacific is an extremely fragmented region. A lot of different legal regimes, a lot of different perspective on speech, and a lot of different harm types. When we talk about, for example, elections, and Taiwan itself has had a very significant election this year, I think one of the things we should look back and say how far we've come in terms of how we manage election integrity, the way elections are managed online, and the way in which we can counter misinformation as well as disinformation, and allow for civic, the civic role to play out to its best advantage. We're very proud of our partnership with the government all through the years, including MODA. We're obviously really happy that the Taiwan election went well. This being the year of the elections globally, in Meta, we are now gearing up for, obviously, the US elections. And it's going to be a significant election, not just because it's the United States, but because it's actually going to be a fairly controversial election this year, the presidential election in the United States. And with emerging technologies like AI, we are scrutinizing our policies, our enforcement, and our capabilities to address the civic threat, again, misinformation, disinformation, but also how emerging technologies, the use of AI-generated content, audio, or images can actually impact election integrity. So this is a space in which, again, the work is never done because the technology never stops and bad people apparently don't sleep. And so we are also constantly working to improve ourselves in this space. The last pillar is on fairness and inclusion, and that is super important. And it's actually also become extremely interesting topic in the era of generative AI. So again, AI is not new, and when we talk about things like machine learning, it's essentially a machine that is able to take data and train itself to come up with certain decisions and certain systems. Generative AI is slightly different. Generative AI means that with the data set that is given to the technology, there is no way to control what actually comes out and is actually generated, which is why in the safety space we do a lot of what we call safety red teaming, where we actually essentially ourselves and our team of experts try to jailbreak our systems before they go out into the public. So we essentially test the system with difficult prompts, with incendiary prompts, with inappropriate prompts, and then from there we continue to train and iterate the system. However, the output, there is still an element of the output which is undetermined. And so this is the point where we have to be very, very conscious of the kind of society that we all want to live in, and the kind of content that we want to see online, and how we're actually training these systems to ensure that any kind of bias is not reflected in the outputs for all the Gen AI models and products. Meta, again, I've mentioned, has invested in AI for over 10 years. We're very, very proud of the fact that AI underpins, our discovery engine. Every experience that you have on Meta products, whether it is on Facebook, Instagram, it's all powered by our AI. And what the AI does, obviously, is that it essentially learns from users' preferences, right, to try to ensure that you have, as far as you desire, a customized, personalized experience. And AI has been integral to our safety and integrity work, again, for the last 10 years. Since 2016, Meta has invested over $20 billion in the safety and integrity space, and a very large part of this, it's people, it's expertise, it's AI. we have constantly using like just the large amount of users that we have around the world. We have used the feedback loop when people report content to us, when we learn to take down content ourselves that violates our policies, that is harmful, that is illegal, and it trains the AI to get better and better. So for example, we're pretty proud of the fact that hate speech is, it's a very unfortunate and perennial issue. But from where we started a couple of years ago, where we were really struggling to try to control just a very large volume of hate speech across different languages and different cultural norms around the world, to today, where 82% of hate speech is removed by our machine learning. And what that means is that if any of you here, and I hope all of you here are, Meta supporters, then it means that, in general, when you use our products, like the vast amount of hate speech that people are posting online, a human being never sees it. The machine removes it before any human being sees it. So 82%, we're proud of this number, incredible investments, a lot of expertise went to it. It's not good enough. We will continue to do better, and as technology develops, we are very confident that we will do better. And then, like just talking a little bit about, we've talked a lot about frauds and scams, and I want to go into frauds and scams. But I think the flip side of this is the fact that the internet unblocked a lot of economic opportunities for big companies, but also more importantly for small and medium-sized enterprises, because it became the great leveler. And that is something that goes to the lifeblood of like Meta's business. We are very big supporters and believers that the internet provides SMBs economic opportunities, and our AI also powers this experience that they are able to better reach out to their prospective audience, their prospective users, in a way in which was only available to these mega brands with mega marketing budgets like 15 years ago. And so as we think about how we touch on the risk vectors around the world, I think it is also very important to think about part of like, the chopping food, the kitchen knife chopping food aspect of technology is to continue to support like widespread digital connectivity as well as economic opportunities. So how is AI used at Meta? I'm not going to go into details on this slide, but I think you can already see, right, that we use technology across a spectrum of use cases, whether it is for algorithms, whether it is for tagging, labeling, like all of that presents an experience for the user that we hope makes sense, but also, again, indexing on transparency. So I will touch a little bit like JJ, I cannot beat JJ's presentation. He went into a lot of details, and I thought to go into all the work that we do is a lot for 10 minutes, right? I just want to say that I think that what JJ hit the nail on the head, and also Minister, thank you so much for what you said, which is this is a whole society effort. Like there is no single silver bullet solution to actually tackle something like frauds and scams, which is another harm vector, right, that we have seen in like abuse scenarios for the internet. And so AI is a tool. We will continue to utilize that tool, both as Meta and also in partnership with industry. Meta initiated the AI Alliance with IBM, where we work across, there are over 100 members right now, the AI Alliance, where we work on innovation and we work on sharing how we could safely promote innovation and development. We've also used the tools to provide labeling, including AI labeling. And so if a content is posted across our family of apps and it is generated by AI, you will see that as the user so that you are aware of the provenance of this content. So all that, again, that is technology, that is enforcement, that is an incomplete part of the whole of society approach. When we talk about whole of society approach, public-private partnership is critical. Partnership with civil society, extremely critical. And also education, because we live in an era where children, my son's pediatrician told me that in the past when she used to inject babies, they would use little toys and trinkets to kind of distract the babies. And now the babies don't need that because the parents will just put an iPad in front of them. So the babies, before they learn to talk, they learn to do this. So they all swipe and then they get distracted and then they get injected. And so that is the era we live in. It is the responsibility of all of us here, right, to ensure that this generation of digital natives are empowered to understand how to navigate the internet safely. We do a lot here in this space of partnering. In Taiwan, we partner a lot with TCA, with GoPen. I don't know whether the representatives are around, but we've done digital safety literacy campaigns in Taiwan. We did a bunch last year. We will continue to do that this year. We do these scam awareness campaigns. We do a lot of seller education because there is a big component of fraud and scam that is syndicated and is serious crimes, and it requires very dedicated government, including bi-led government cooperation and international law enforcement cooperation to really tackle the root of the issue. But we also want to ensure, right, that the average seller who perhaps runs a small shop and does not intend to defraud people actually understand how a regular user is viewing their services and how they're communicating with their users. So we invest a lot in these education as well to prevent inadvertent violation of our policies. We have a flagship We Think Digital program that since last year we've rolled out a scam awareness component and module to it as well. And we run that in multiple markets around like Asia Pacific. And the last is that we've actually created this help center called the Anti-Scam Resource Hub. This, I have actually put in the URL. Would really appreciate it if folks could go in and check out this hub. We've put in a lot of effort to try to teach people how bad people behave, how we should safely protect ourselves, and how we conduct ourselves online. The work is, again, never complete when you're building something like this. Any feedback is welcome. And we have a whole room full, obviously, of just really invested like experts. And so please, reach out to any one of us from Meta to tell us like how we are doing in terms of like this public education component. This is actually my last slide. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. AI is obviously, just really, really exciting, the developments in AI, particularly in the last couple of years. But what I will say is this. As Meta, we've always been very committed to safety and integrity. Frauds and scams is the latest in a whole long series of safety and integrity issues that has really taken hold of like the public's imaginations and concerns. We are aware. We're investing very heavily across the whole spectrum of our strategy, and really look forward, like I said, to any kind of feedback. The last thing I will say is this, again, on the assumption that all of you are like Meta fans. When we talk about AI, it's machine learning, right, at the base of it. And so if you are a user of any of our products and you see anything you don't like, please report it. This helps us to give everybody else a better experience. And this also helps us train our machines. We can only get better if we know what we're doing wrong. And so, we're always open, like Meta folks, there are a couple of us here. We're always open to have conversations with all of you, but please report content, because that's the most basic way that every single internet user out there can contribute to the use of AI to tackle frauds and scams. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. In her presentation, we learned lots principles of Meta related to the AI, especially including the investment of AI and the business opportunity, and also approaches toward the responsible AI, and how Meta addressed the scams and frauds, including as powered by AI, and the role of the multiple stakeholder approaches in these efforts. Thank you, Jennifer. Then our next speaker, Joanna from the Safer Internet Lab. Time is yours. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and it's a pleasure to be here in Taipei with all of you. By way of introduction, my name is Joanna Octavia. I'm a researcher at the Safer Internet Lab, a joint initiative by the Center for Strategic International Studies Indonesia with Google Indonesia. And today I'll be presenting a little bit about the research that we've just started on deepfakes for financial frauds in Southeast Asia. I'm really looking forward to the discussion that follows after, as our research, as I mentioned, it's still in its very early stages. We hope that the discussion will spark some great ideas which we can use to sharpen our research design and focus. So just like any good good researcher does, we can start by defining online frauds and scams. I think these two words are often used interchangeably with each other, but they actually mean slightly different things. So for frauds, fraud is actually an umbrella term for any deliberate deception used for financial gain. It encompasses many different attacks. So this could be attacks on people or attacks on the system. Whereas scam in particular is an attack on a person. So it involves you as an individual making or authorizing the payment yourself. And scams often involves an aspect of what we call social engineering. So social engineering uses human psychology, such as influence and persuasion, to convince individuals into giving up sensitive information or making payments. And these kind of scams can create a sense of fear and urgency. They also leverage on the human emotional reaction towards authority. That's why you see a lot of scams involving extortions by scammers impersonating as police officers, for example. And these actions try to pressure victims into acting quickly without verifying the legitimacy of the claim. This is a small sample of the different types of scams and scams that exist globally. For Southeast Asia in particular, we see a lot of trends in investment scams. We also see a lot of identity thefts as well as e-commerce scams. And these scams are not exclusive to each other. Sometimes you can see a combination of two or more different scams. For example, a romance scam which turned into an investment scam. And ironically, it is actually rapid growth of the digital economy and also the rapid pace of digitalization that drove the rise of online frauds and scams in Southeast Asia. And this was accelerated in part by COVID-19. It has increased the occurrence of financial cybercrime, with most scammers using phone calls, WhatsApp, and Facebook, social media apps across Southeast Asia for investment scams, as I mentioned before, identity theft, and e-commerce scams. And these activities are becoming increasingly very sophisticated. They're very dependent on ICT, investing heavily in technology to create fake websites, fake social media profiles that look believable. They also use technology to improve their spelling, and so you don't really see scammers with bad grammar or bad spelling, through which we often identify that those are scams. They also use it to automate tools to launch large-scale cyber attacks. So these attacks are becoming more efficient and more effective. There's also low barriers to entry because technology are becoming more and more user-friendly and accessible for scammers, unfortunately. And it is also important to remember that by nature, because they take place on the internet, online frauds and scams are globalized and their operations tend to be transnational, involving 2 or more countries, and often transcontinental. We also see that deepfake images, audios, and videos have been misused to support online frauds and scams. So astonishingly, the Asia-Pacific region, according to one report, actually saw a 1,530% increase in deepfake scams between 2022 and 2023. And within Southeast Asia, 2 countries have come into the top 3, which is the Philippines and Vietnam topping the list. It's also important to note that these scammers, deepfake scammers, are not only targeting individual users such as yourselves, but they're also targeting corporations. In Indonesia, for example, there have been reports of fraudsters using deepfake technology to compromise accounts in digital payment providers, as well as for all aspects of credit application process. So imagine someone applying for credit under your name, under a fake identity, and how scary that would be. And perhaps a case that has been bringing a lot of alarm bells in the private sector is the attack on Arab, a UK engineering firm who lost $25 million after one of their Hong Kong staff attended a deepfake video conference with their CFO, a deepfake CFO, and colleagues. And after the call, he transferred $25 million to the scammers as a result. So that was quite a scary thing to happen to anyone and to any company. Another trend that we've observed is that deepfakes have been used in investment scams. So earlier this year and late last year, we saw deepfake videos of Singapore's political leaders, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, as well as Senior Minister and former Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, promoting investment scams circulating on social media platforms. And it is also important to note that among other investment scams, the crypto industry has often been linked to deepfake scams. it actually represents 88% of all deepfake cases detected in 2023, according to one report. And one reason for this is because the crypto industry provides an untraceable way for these scammers to gain financially. And if you look up scams in Southeast Asia, I think one of the things that you will find is the pig butcher scam centers, which are spreading across the region. There's a name for this in Chinese. It comes from a Chinese word, which I unfortunately cannot pronounce. But basically, the name comes from the fact that they try to fatten up the victim by cultivating a romantic relationship or a friendship before slaughtering them and taking their money. So that's the origin of the name. And within Southeast Asia, we see that Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Philippines are the largest destinations for these scam centers with cross-country victims. Reports have said that these scam workers were told to scam people in the United States, so Americans, Europeans, but also people from their own countries. And these scam workers have been recruited from all over Southeast Asia and also Chinese-speaking communities across Asia, as well as from other regions. So this is the cross-continent nature of these online scams and frauds. The deepfake pig butchering scams often work in a team, so they're very organized, very systematic. They have the keyboarders who chat with the victims. They also have models who act as the face and voice of the scam. And you also have the bosses who manage the operations. And this issue has actually become a very big concern for Southeast Asians. In fact, according to a survey this year, global scam operations are cited as the top 3 geopolitical concern of Southeast Asians. And as mentioned before, online fraud and scams in Southeast Asia are transnational and multifaceted in nature. Many criminal activities are cross-border, but the cybercrime laws are specific to local jurisdictions, which creates jurisdictional issues concerning whose responsibility it is to investigate and prosecute. And because of the variations in language and context, given that Southeast Asia is a very diverse region with a lot of local contexts and nuances, transnational cooperation remains a challenge because you are working against region-wide network of scammers versus local execution of enforcers. And now, which brings me to the role of civil society. So where does civil society fit into this, this whole issue of financial frauds in Southeast Asia? Well, civil society can assist in areas where governments are currently lacking. So that would be in sharing information, preventive actions, and call for action. We found through our initial research that most online frauds and scams go unreported, not just due to the low financial losses, but also personal embarrassment, and most importantly, because of the perceived complicated reporting processes. So victims often do not know where to report or how to report it, and this is where civil society can come in. For example, Scam Watch Filipinas is the national cybersecurity movement to educate Filipinos against cyber fraud. They've received funding from select members of the private sector, and they provide hotline for scam reports, and this allows victims to know where to go if they need help. Another example of civil society organization is Global Anti-Scam Organization, which was set up by victims of pig butcher scams. So they actually have the first-hand experience and are able to help with gathering intel, driving public awareness, rescuing victims, and many more. And the second way that civil society can play a crucial role is by raising public AI literacy. AI literacy efforts should be inclusive, multilingual, and culturally tailored for a diverse community, especially considering the very diverse context that Southeast Asia operates in. And also, I think for raising public AI literacy, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can actually go to existing initiatives that have already existed in the grassroots and build it up from there. Lastly, and this is my last slide, so in terms of innovative approaches and collaborative efforts, which my other panelists have mentioned earlier, we see that multilaterally and G2G approach have worked to a certain extent. We have seen that the Philippines Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission is collaborating with UNODC, and they're trying to work with other countries to dismantle scam centers in the region. And in 2023, we saw that the Indonesian police have received a tip-off from the Security Ministry of the People's Republic of China Because of this tip-off, they successfully arrested cross-border telephone and online romance scammers. The private sector has been using AI to combat misuse of AI, which is very, very impressive. And this also reframes AI as a means of proactive early detection of deepfakes, for example, through analyzing behavioral patterns to see the possibility of attacks. They can also use AI to distill the number of security reports or adopting advanced biometric technology to detect deepfakes. And lastly, there are also evidence of collaborative multi-sectoral approach in the region. Perhaps the most mature would be in Singapore with their anti-scam command office, in which they bring in stakeholders from different sectors to work together to catch scammers. And these involve not just the Singapore police force, but also various financial institutions, e-commerce platforms, other technology companies, and other relevant agencies. And other countries in the region have followed in the footsteps. For example, Indonesia had just launched the Anti-Scam Center Initiative led by the Financial Services Authority, or OJK, early August. And I believe other countries in the region have done the same, namely Thailand and Malaysia as well. So it's very, very encouraging, and hopefully that they can also be points of contact for each other, because I think the different countries in Southeast Asia need points of contact to collaborate and to coordinate on transnational cooperation. And that's it from me. That's it from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanna. I think it's a great opportunity for us to learn from several internet lab research, particularly regarding deepfakes and scams. And Joanna also shared about the insights of innovation approaches and the collaborative efforts with the industry and the government to combat malicious acts and false information online and raise public awareness. There is no doubt that the role of the civil society, I think, is very important, plays in supporting the efforts and combat frauds and raise public AI literacy. Okay, let's move to our last speaker. Edmund, time is yours.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you for having me on this panel. I just met a friend and saying, you know, those who know me, why are you on this panel? We don't even know that you talk about these things. Well, actually, in the last few years, I have been participating at the IEEE Algorithmic Bias Working Group. That's one thing. But more interestingly, I think I wanted to bring up two things that happened last year, right here, actually. At the APrIGF and at the TWIGF. Actually, it was what I said then. Last year, my daughter, who's 11 years old, just got into kind of secondary school, and I was excited and surprised to find that their schools are actually teaching them to use AI to do homework. Well, of course, to do it properly in a way. And I think that's really interesting. And I really want, you know, this is a topic that I think continues to be relevant. And in the APrIGF, where we are also here today, last year, one of the things that became very apparent is that, that comes back to some of my work, is that this whole boundary between AI and the broader internet governance discussion is definitely blurring. In fact, there is no, you can't really see a clear boundary before. What is interesting, though, is that for those of you who might be you know, paying attention long enough, just a few years ago, AI is not considered part of internet governance. And a lot of times, AI workshops that come into internet governance proposals actually don't get a very high rating. However, that changed significantly over the last year. One of the things, and this goes to the first thing that I want to bring up. I think all of the speakers before me talked about one thing, why it's, when we talk about scam and problems with AI and deepfake on the internet, it's about scaling. It's really scaled to an unprecedented level, it's much easier for bad guys to replicate, for example, phishing sites. I guess, I think it was Joanna that showed, all those sites, right? I mean, they look very similar. And AI is helping them because that is the content that is generated for abuse is, AI is helping generate that content. But the scale of the defense, I guess, both the minister and JJ and Jennifer also mentioned that we can scale up our defense as well, and that's really where we are. And I think, but one thing that is interesting to note, I personally believe that, and it's often said, it's always easier to destroy rather than be constructive. It's much easier to be destructive than to be constructive. So as much as JJ has mentioned that very optimistically that we can beat out the bad guys, it's probably going to be difficult because even in the remedy side, we tend to go for destruction rather than construction because it's easier. Taking down things is easier. Getting people to learn, to discern, to think is much harder. Education is much slower, much harder, and that is the problem. One of the ultimate kind of approach, we need to scale up literacy. I think that's the part that is difficult. That's the part that is the construction that is difficult. The takedowns, however, the takedowns are the ones that have immediate impact, right? But those are the more destructive things. And whenever we talk about takedown on the internet, we touch on issues of false positives. We touch on issues of balance, transparency reporting. What about human rights? What are you taking down? Or are the ones that are being taken down really dissent or bad things? I mean, all these things come into play, and so it's really a lot of the trade-offs that we need to think through. So with that, I want to shift a little bit gear, and I wanted to highlight really three things in my mind about this topic. The first one, about deepfakes and AI assisted stuff, it's often the shock value that you people talk about and go for. But I think it is what we need to also think through is the long-term effect. Slight changes, not shocking videos, slight changes of history. Like think about it this way: slight changes of history can change the course of history. So if you imagine oppressive regimes just making small changes to things that actually happened, that truth, when projected over a period of time, can change a lot. I'm sure you've heard of the saying that he who controls the past controls the future, and I think we spend a lot of time thinking through the shocking images or videos, the shocking $25 million that suddenly was given out. But what about small changes that are harder to detect, but in deepfake that is rolled out over time to change what we call as truth or history? I think that's something that is much less talked about, and I wanted to raise it. We talked about elections. These are the type of things I think will certainly affect elections into the future. So again, I think it's not just the shock value, not the big deepfakes, but also the very nuanced deepfakes that we might have to guard against as well. That's number one. Number two that I want to add to the conversation is that technology, as much as it's a knife, it's also a symbiotic relationship. We use technology, the technology helps us, but technology also changes us, right? I mean, technology predicts things based on our past and tells us how help us, but technology also nudges us to change our own behavior. So again, dovetailing back to my first point, these are some of the things that are much less discussed when we think about the governance of AI or of emerging technologies, is the longer term nuanced changes, both on the behavior and on what we call truth on the internet. And that takes me to the third point, which I think everyone talked about, and it's the key word at internet governance, which is the multi-stakeholder model. I do believe that the multi-stakeholder model is a critical component of addressing many of these issues. Many of the speakers have also already mentioned that, but I want to focus on one particular aspect, which is what is a truly multi-stakeholder model? Not to say, not to criticize Google or Facebook, but a truly multi-stakeholder approach requires multi-stakeholder agenda setting, a bottom-up agenda setting. It's not an agenda setting by a government or a corporation and consultation to the different stakeholders. And that's the difference between a true multi-stakeholder model versus a consultative multi-stakeholder model. It's on the agenda setting all through the process, as well as ultimately the decision-making process. Right? It's not just, oh, we have this cool thing, we want to consult you, we're gonna do this thing, we want to consult you, okay, we balance all your interests and then we make a decision. That's, that is what actually we call a multilateral system with a multi-stakeholder consultation process. But a truly multi-stakeholder model requires us to think through the agenda setting. What do people want? What do people want to regulate in the first place? And I think that is something that is very important. So the three things that I want to leave with everyone, one is the subtle changes that changes the course of history. That, I think, is something that deepfake could bring. The symbiotic, number two, the symbiotic relationship about technology and us, how it changes ourselves. And thirdly, the multi-stakeholder model. And I lied a little bit. I want to say a fourth thing, which is rebuilding trust. Ultimately, a multi-stakeholder model, or in order to do this properly, we need to rebuild trust. We often hear about zero trust systems, but we really need to reconsider our trust anchors. This is what AI and deepfake challenge us to do. In the past, we have certain trust anchors to images, videos, people, those trust anchors need to be rethought through. And I think, that is when we can build up what I call a personal digital sovereignty. And building up that personal digital sovereignty is important, as important as national digital sovereignty as anything. So, with that, I want to end by saying that I think young people's participation is important. We talk about civil society, we talk about governments, we talk about industry participating, but a lot of times this also is the difference between the multilateral versus the multi-stakeholder model, where extended group of people, including the youth, needs to be part of both the agenda setting and the decision-making process.
Yeah, thank you, Edmund. You raised many points. I think they are all the key factors about the topics we have discussed. And you also mentioned about, let me remind me to think about the nature of internet and AI. And you also mentioned about the what is the true multiple stakeholder model. It's very interesting. It needs time to discuss, yeah. And okay, because this is APrIGF, so we encourage the feedback and the interactive between our panelists and our audience. So I will leave the microphone to the public, and I think because your insights and your observation shared, maybe we can also have some interactive between our panelists, feedback to some different points. If you have no points, then I will raise question. Okay, I will leave the microphone to the public. Then please say. Introduce yourself, your name, your organization in the very beginning, okay? Thank you.
Hello. Hi, my name's Donna, and I'm currently a student at the University of Hong Kong. And I'm here on behalf of Hong Kong Youth IGF. So I do have a question. I think I really had a fascinating experience just listening to you guys talk about how we handle scams and frauds in different contexts and in different countries. And thinking about how we heard from Google about how they try to engage and learn a lot through artificial intelligence and target these scams and these criminals, and from Meta about how they use machine learning to kind of look for reported scams by users. So I'm a user because, as a teenager, everyone uses social media. But it's just that I do have an observation that I would like to reflect. It's that as users of these social media platforms, I know that a lot of our information is also being harvested. And not just as a user, but I've also used Instagram as a way to kind of advertise an event that we had at school where we really needed participants. And I was really surprised by how effective it was. So thinking about machine learning and about scams and frauds, it seems like there's a lot of ways we can segregate people into specific kind of groups. Right? So thinking about that, I feel like perhaps because we're also having advertisers and smaller businesses on your platforms, how could we better kind of protect users of your platforms as well, because we are becoming recipients of these ads, because machine learning has become with artificial intelligence has become really advanced. So how do we actually protect people who become kind of part of these targeted ads? Yeah, that was my question. Thank you.
I think your question goes to Meta and Google, right?
I think to everyone here.
Okay. You two first. Okay.
Hello? Oh, no, found it. Okay. I'll take that question because I feel like there was a lot of reference to Meta products. I think the first thing that we should highlight, right, is the fact that there is this common misconception that targeted advertisements or targeted content is bad. And it's quite a fascinating perspective because we are facing probably a very real situation right now where multiple users in the European Union will potentially, will not have that option because of the regulatory developments there. And the general feedback that we're getting from the user population is that this is a terrible experience because essentially we've now moved back like 20, 25 years to having to look at content that is supposed to apply to everybody and is generic, but the only difference between print media and what you see online today is just the sheer volume of content. And so when you have content that does not align with your interest and your preference, it can feel, frankly speaking, very spammy. So I think that is a personal decision that individuals have to make as to what kind of an online experience do they want to have. And it is the responsibility of companies such as Meta and Google to give users that control. And so we do. Like a user can determine how targeted do they want their experience to be, what kind of interest they want to share with the apps or the online products that they interact with, to determine what then is the reciprocal experience that they will then experience. I think control, we talked a lot, I talked a lot about how in AI, one of our responsible pillar is transparency as well as control. So on the transparency side, if I just speak for Meta, there is a button in our content where you could click on this eye signal that says, why am I seeing this? And that will explain to you why you're seeing a particular type of content or content from a particular individual. And usually it's tied to your viewing habits as well as the preferences you've indicated. You don't like that, you find it too invasive, change your preferences. And then you will have a different experience. So both the transparency and control must be in place for individuals to feel like they can control their own online experience.
Okay, then, JJ, 3 minutes.
Sorry, but before we continue, could I just add on to that? So I feel like I definitely agree that personalized social media experiences would be a really great addition to kind of really keep users entertained and to actually feel like they have control over what it is that they see. It's just that I feel like the problem might also exacerbate the idea of echo chambers, or like, because it feels like you like this content, we won't show you any other content that you might not like. And I feel like that kind of perpetuates this kind of problem. So if somebody's prone to maybe getting scammed, maybe they might keep seeing scams because they keep falling victims to these. So perhaps there is a way, as big social media platforms or platforms in general, as Google or maybe even the government could kind of intervene.
We can
in this
keep
kind
discussing
of situation.
about this
Thank
issue. Yeah, so let Google to share something. Okay, one second.
One minute. So this terminology echo chamber, a lot of research has been done in this space, and we've participated and we've also funded a lot of research in this space. It's another one of those topics where, Nicole says these topics can be a topic of their own, and we can definitely have, offline more discussion on this. But what I will say is this, right? Actually, the variety of content that the internet provides actually helps give more options to people who are inclined towards a certain ideological bias. Because a lot of media now is actually divided across ideological lines, but the internet is open, right? And so you are right that people who have certain, certain propensity try to seek out other people who agrees with their views, but there's also actually a greater likelihood that they're going to see alternative views. Again, this is not me speaking. This is the result of a lot of research. I'm happy to discuss this issue further, but I just wanted to respond to that point.
Thank you, Jennifer. Then JJ.
I just wanted to mention briefly, when I presented, I didn't present on sort of Google's way to tackle scams. I sort of focused on AI. So I really gave a super quick overview of what we do, and I think other platforms do as well. So when you use our products, we have protections that are baked into the products and then baked into sort of the way we deal with complaints, so as to increasingly protect you as the user, right? And also protect our wider ecosystem of advertisers. So increasingly, I'm hoping that whether it's your recommendations or not, just something that increasingly we will be able to catch the scammers. Because I'll give you a couple of examples. I mentioned Gmail before. Thanks to AI and machine learning, we can capture a lot of the spam messages well before they ever get into your inbox. Hopefully you never see them. Like, before 2005, I remember being on another email platform. I used to get lots of spam. In fact, that account is dead. It was just too busy with spam. I've used Gmail since, and long before I was a Google employee and all that. And it was great, because it's got the right technical measures. So hopefully we're getting into that situation with scams. You've got things like, if you've got this beautiful device, I think we can say it's partly designed here in Taiwan, Pixel phones, Android phones generally. Thanks to the reports that we get from users like you, from government agencies, from others in industry, because we share data as well, we now have a system that basically when you get a call that looks like it's from a number that's reported to be scammed, it will tell you. If it's a message, same thing, it will tell you in advance. It might block it, tell you that the message has been blocked. It's effective at the moment to around 65–66% of all messages and calls made. And we're hoping to get better and better. So it's the sort of things that we're going to look to continuously improve on. So please continue to report, as Jennifer was saying, and be confident as much as possible that we're really doing a lot, and we're going to do more and more, and we're hoping to be more and more effective.
Yeah, thank you, JJ. And I think within the anti-scam and fraud ecosystem, the role of government is very important. So let's have a deputy minister to say something. Yes.
Okay, actually I have some question now. Although I'm a government official now, but I came from industry. And as a guy from the industry, I believe everything is related to money. And there are a lot of rumors about Google and Facebook saying that you are reluctant to remove the scam messages because those advertisements bring you revenue. And I also know that in your companies, the legal department are very active, very willing to fight the scams. But the sales and marketing department, because they're not so happy about all this kind of effort, because the ads will bring you income. How do you deal with this kind of situation? Thank you.
Whoa, big question.
Yeah, I think it might go to Edmund's point about long term. Like it's like a slow death if you don't address these issues. Like this is all about an ecosystem and about trust. If we continue to have bad content and now increasingly stuff that scams that really affects people very directly in many ways, not just financially but also emotional in many times, it's going to destroy people's confidence in the internet. It's going to destroy people's confidence in the advertising ecosystem and industry. It's going to be bad for all kinds of companies. And the advertisers, the brands won't want to advertise, they won't know whether to advertise. It just doesn't make any sense not to address that. Now, we've got policies to address that, to try and stop the monetization for these people. We're looking into how, you follow the money. That's the old trick. That's what we've been doing about scams as an ecosystem for a while. We just need to get better at it. And these guys are moving fast, and they're clever, and they've got resources. But we're working on it because it's really bad for us. It's bad for our business. It's bad for all of us.
I mean, that applies to us as well, right? But I will also say one thing, which is we are first and foremost a product company. When there is illegal activity on our platform, it creates regulatory and litigation pressures and threats for us, and we have to invest resources to address that. That is not where we want to address our resources. Again, fundamentally, we're a product company. We like building, we like innovating, and then we like pushing those products to the market. And all of this, right, is a necessary, investing in safety and integrity is necessary, but the presumption that we would then prioritize making money on top of pushing products that people actually want to use is probably a fallacy. And I think it comes from a place where, there is, I mean, if I can unpack that, Vice Minister, I think that the issue here is an issue, to Edmund's point, of trust. That assumption only comes because it shows that we have work to do to continue to build on trust or to rebuild lost trust. Because we are making incredible efforts. We have industry alliances across tech and other industries. We are investing in technology. We work with law enforcement. We work with governments. We work with civil society. And the perception, from what I can gather then, is that, great, but you need to do more, and we are. It takes time to see like the positive impact of good work that's doing, but rest assured, right, that we are doing this, that we hear actually what is the underlying issue with a question like that.
Okay, there is no doubt we still need to work very hard together. Okay, time is limited, but we still have 2 questions. 3, okay. Okay, next one, please. Please control the time, okay?
I'll be extremely quick if I can. Okay. So my name is Alvin Kwan from CSC. So basically, we are also a provider to actually monitor internet for fraud and scam and stuff like that, and complain to you guys on behalf of large companies. So because of this background, I actually come to be slightly skeptical about the idea of using AI to fight AI, mainly because I see the limitation as well. So without saying too much because of time, what I've also observed by talking to some of the platforms in the Asia-Pacific region is that some government, not Taiwan by the way, may be going to be a bit too confident about AI in fighting this kind of scam. As Joanna mentioned, scam is essentially social engineering. It's not exactly a problem that the technology can fix like 100%, right? So do you also see this advance in AI and using AI to fight scam also bring in a negative in a sense that some government might be putting too much liability and responsibility and cost to the platforms to be solely responsible for that problem? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, so anyone to answer?
I can start
okay,
first.
I think Deputy Minister would like to answer.
Yes, I don't really understand what's your question. Do you mean that AI will have a lot of false positive? Is that the question, or the control of the government, or the?
Not about control of government, but I think the effectiveness of AI in the sense that it is a social engineering problem. Yes. So it may not be 100% able to.
It's not 100%.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. But it helps.
Yeah.
Simply, it helps.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
It's a very effective cost reduction way to do that.
If we have AI tool, then it is better than if we do not have AI tools. That's it.
Yeah.
We do not rely on AI tools 100%. We do not let AI to do all the decision for us. We use AI to do the screening, to find the suspicious message. I use the word suspicious repeatedly. We just want to find out which messages are suspicious. We do not make the decision using AI tools directly. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think there's a question you're saying. Some people might say, oh, we can just rely on AI for everything. I think the minister is a bit more savvy than many ministers out there. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Yeah, I think there's a good point here. AI, we've been fighting cybersecurity for a while with technology versus technology, and we know there's no silver bullet. It has to be a panoply of initiatives. AI is going to be one element. We're hoping that it's going to really change the game, but it can't be just left to AI. You're absolutely correct. And we're going to need to continue with user safety and our own sort of product protections, etc. It's going to have to be a multi-pronged approach, absolutely. And I think I am concerned, like you, I think, that you might have some arguing that it's fine, the tech can take care of it, and the platforms can take care of it, let them handle it. And then it means law enforcement will just forget about it and not deal with it, and users will not exercise their responsibility and their agency to actually do the right thing. That's what we want users to be aware and to be the first ones to say, no, this is a scam, I'm not touching it, and we're going to help them with that. But it has to be, again, whole of society approach will work. Thank you.
Yes, I think we all bear in mind that there is limitation of AI. Because of the limitation of time, I can only have one more question. Sorry about that. Okay, the last question.
Thank you. Thank you all for your presentations. My name is Eddie Lin, and I work with Amazon Taiwan, but I asked this question on behalf of myself. So I would like to learn more about your definitions of the so-called AI fraud and also like abuse content, because I totally understand that some examples you provided earlier that they involve the intent to commit financial crimes or fraud. However, I also want to bring it up that there are some other kinds of content that you know, for example, if there is a video impersonating a politician criticizing a public policy or a public issue that they actually never made, and you know, these kind of content probably don't involve the intent to commit criminal crimes or fraud, and you know, they probably sometimes are used as a satire or you know, like a meme to the current politics. So I wonder, like these kind of content and with the respect and also the like the protection for the political speech, are these kind of content will also fall under to your definition of abused content and will be subject to restrictions, especially on platforms like Google and Meta? Thank you.
Okay, so please control the time. Thank you so much.
Okay. No, thanks so much for that question, right? Because, again, I think there is a spectrum of abuse, and there's a spectrum of different types of issues on the platform. When we talk about fraud and scam, a lot of it is syndicated. It is serious crime. It is content that should not be on the platform, and it is something where it's not just the content. These actors should not be on the services, and they need to be, like, eradicated. But at the same time, I think underpinning that question is actually, will we end up relying on technology? So it goes back to your question as well, right? Will we rely on technology too much? And it actually ends up with an unintended but very negative consequence on society. And this again goes to this question about the whole society approach. You know, when we talk about issues, right? You know, to your point about content, there's this Chinese saying, they say 斩草要除根, which means when you crop the grass, you must pull out the roots. Content is just pulling out the grass. And AI technology is one of the fastest way to clear like a landscape full of stray grass. But that does not get rid of the roots. Getting rid of the roots requires a lot of different things. It requires a society to be educated and to accept satire, particularly of public figures. True here, but maybe not so true in many other parts of Asia Pacific. It requires like again, collaboration with government and law enforcement for very serious syndicated crimes. And so when we look at AI and when we look at the way we write our policies, develop our technology, and how we actually go to the root of the issue, it is such a nuanced approach and it's such a multilateral approach. And nobody does this in isolation. And so I'm glad for the questions. I'm glad for both questions because we wouldn't want folks to live with the impression that because we're tech companies, we think tech solves everything. We think tech is a really powerful tool. We're very aware of the potential for abuse, and that's what we fight against.
Okay, JJ.
Super quickly on your example, so you've got this scammy impersonations. Then you might have impersonations that are disinformation. Right? We will tackle them under our impersonation policy and all misinformation policies. Then you mentioned satire, which is a really good point. And that's where the human comes in for reviews. And that's where we need time to do reviews of content moderation flags, because the machines still today have a problem understanding the broader context. And so when we do reviews of content that has been flagged, we apply a process that looks at educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic licenses. So that's basically finding out if something is a satire, or if it's really bad content, graphic content, but should it remain here because it's news? It's documentary, it's important to document it. We will not take it down. So I think we look at it very, very carefully, and that's where, again, maybe that's a good way to conclude that session. The human remains important. Machine is not going to help us do everything.
Yes, that's very good conclusion. But before the end of this section, I would like to invite Edmund and Joanna and the Deputy Minister to have 2 or 3 sentences for our audience for take-home message. Edmund.
Sure. I'll just repeat a couple things. I think from all the questions, really, I think reconsidering our trust anchors and starting from education from a young age is very important. We used to trust certain people. We used to trust certain things the way they are. We have to reconsider trust anchors. That's one thing. The other thing I think a lot of the responses also touched on is personal digital sovereignty, because in the world of AI and with all the countries saying that they want to protect national digital sovereignty, the choice of the users to maintain their own integrity and their own data and their own decision-making agency is going to be important. So it's I think personal digital sovereignty is something that people need to talk about more and think about more.
Thank you, Edwin and Joanna.
Thank you so much for the great discussion. I think to close this session, I would just like to bring up 2 points. The first is that despite the rise of online frauds and scams due to rapid digitalization in Southeast Asia, digitalization remains a great thing. It has opens up opportunities for a lot of people, opens up opportunities for a lot of SMEs, boosts economic growth, and it creates jobs where there were previously none. So I don't think technology is the problem. However, we have to bring back digital trust. Digital trust is digital trust is the core of adoption and continued usage of digital financial services as well as social media platforms. And I think the way that these platforms, Meta, Google, and other technology companies regulate themselves and work with other stakeholders remain the key to building this digital trust. And the second is to build on what Edmund mentioned earlier. Digital literacy is very important. Southeast Asia, even though it has a very large and growing digital economy, it is unfortunately not accompanied by a high level of digital literacy nor financial literacy. And therefore, I think one question asked this earlier, technology is not the only solution. We need education. We need education at the grassroots level, and we need this for every segment of the population, and not just the elderly or the traditionally uninformed, but these days with deepfake technology, it affects all segments of society, and therefore I think digital literacy should be ramped up in that sense.
Okay, thank you. And our Deputy Minister, make your very short conclusion. Okay, thank you.
Okay, fighting online scam is not easy. We know it's going to be a long war, it's going to be a difficult war, but we are going to win, because we are going to use technology to fight fraud, and we are going to use AI to fight AI fraud. And AI technology is evolving every day, but we shall overcome, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you our all distinguished panelists and all our audience. That's the end of this section. Thank you so much.
Dear guests, the next section will commence in 3 minutes. Please take your seat and set your mobile phones to vibrate or silent mode to avoid any disruptions.
嘿嘿嘿嘿，一二三。
Welcome to APrIGF 2024, Shaping the Future AI Policy and Governance in 2030. All sessions are being recorded and transcribed for records and will be made policy available. All participants are remaining to allow the code of conduct. Please allow me to invite the host to lead us through the upcoming session.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. This session is, the title is Shaping the Future, the AI Policy and the Governance in 2030. So, when we go to all the conferences, we always hear or discuss about the AI. So this time, in this session, we want to explore a little bit different way. We want our speakers and also maybe the audience, to imagine, what is the world, in 2030. So then, maybe then we start, to think about, explore, what is the development or potential development, between now and the 2030, and how we should formulate the good, policy and strategy, to make sure that the AI will be responsible and also beneficial. So today we have our experts from the industry, academia, and the civil society. So the first speaker from, next to me is Anita Chen. Is from Google. She's the head of government affairs and public policy of Google Taiwan. And the second speaker is Meg Zhang. Is a head for the content regulation policy from Meta APEC. And the third speaker is George Chen. Is the managing director of the Asia Group for Taiwan and Hong Kong. And the fourth one is Isabel Ho, is the Secretary General of Taiwan AI Academy Foundation. And the last one is the Professor Richard Tsai, is the Department of Computer Science and Information Engineering of National Central University. And he's also the coordinator of Taiwan Tide project. Okay, in this session, we will have each panelist to share about like 8 or 10 minutes about what is their view, and then we will have a Q&A afterwards. The first one, okay. Okay, Anita now is the head of public policy and government affairs of Google Taiwan. She leads the development and articulation of the company's public policy position. She's also responsible for coordinating Google's communication with Taiwan government officials and other third parties on Taiwan policy issues. Anita is an active member of the NCHEN in Taiwan, serving as a governor on the board and also the co-chair of the Digital Economy Committee. So before joining Google, Anita founded Asia Advisory Service, a Taipei-based government relation, public policy, and business consultancy, focusing on the strategic planning and the advocacy for reform of laws and regulation, and the introduction of new products and services for the government procurement. So her expertise includes political analysis, preparation of policy, and government consultation, and advocacy-driven media relations. She received her bachelor's degree from the National Taiwan University and the master's degrees from the University of Texas at Austin. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jovan. Hello, everybody. Very nice to see everybody here. Today, we would like to talk about the AI opportunity for the whole society. So I've prepared some slides. Next, please. So talking about AI, I believe that everyone here can agree that we're standing at a pivotal moment in the AI development. So according to a research by McKinsey, by 2030, excuse me, the previous one? Yes, thank you. By 2030, AI will contribute globally by about 13 trillion US dollar, and that is at 1.2% of GDP growth. This remarkable potential underscores the importance of the choices that we make today, as they will undoubtedly shape the future of AI and its impact to our world. Next, please. The profound potential of AI demands not only technological advancement, but also a thoughtful approach to its development. Google was one of the first companies to roll out its strong AI principle. What I'm showing you here is a quick glance of our AI principle that we introduced in 2018. It focuses on what AI should be used to do, and then also some of the areas that we believe AI should not be used to. In addition to rolling out our own AI principle, we also contribute to international organizations such as OECD, UN, and G7, in their way to AI governance. These principles now are not only our standard for our research and product development, but they also guide our business strategy. Next, please. In addition, we also believe that a responsible approach for AI requires a collective effort. Effective collaboration between the public and private sectors fosters shared responsibility, contributing to the establishment of a robust AI ecosystem. Next, please. So for example, in Taiwan, Google Cloud has partnered with the Taiwan government's National Health Insurance Agency, the National Health Research Institute, and the Health to Think, which is a health startup, to develop a diabetes risk detection model using generative AI. With the medical data provided by the NHI, the research team uses Google's AI and cloud technologies to train the model to predict the risk of complications in type 2 diabetes patients several years in advance. And with that research result, doctors can reach out to patients with higher risk in advance and advise them on lifestyle changes and also the necessary medication so that together we can prevent the symptoms from getting worse. This project is a great example of how a successful public-private partnership can drive important advancement that benefits the whole society. Next, please. Beyond fostering responsible AI development and collaborative partnerships, Google is actively engaged in identifying and advocating for policies that would harness the full potential for AI and social benefits. We've recently published the AI white paper in Taiwan, which also has been published in a lot of other countries. These papers consist 3 policy suggestions for policymakers, companies, and civil society in order to deliver the full potential of AI. These 3 policy principles are: first, invest in AI infrastructure and enable innovation. Second is to build an AI-empowered workforce. And third is to promote widespread adoption of the AI technology. Next, please. So let me take a minute to go into each of these principles. So first, invest in AI infrastructure to create an environment that enables innovation. Investing in network and computing infrastructure is the key to driving AI development. Simultaneously, government should also invest in fundamental AI research, application development, and core technology advancement, and make these resources available to both the public and private sector. And government should also promote widespread application and innovation of AI technology. Next, please. Second, in the AI era, we believe that developing a comprehensive talent cultivation system is another key to success. While AI brings endless opportunities for industrial developments, it also inevitably impacts the existing labor market. So we recommend that the government should put in resources and work with industry to provide skilling programs across sectors to fit the competency required in the AI era. In the meantime, it is also critical to support workers who are impacted by new technologies and prepare them for the occupations of the future. Next, please. Finally, in addition to building AI and preparing workers, we ultimately need to ensure that AI is applied and deployed in a universally accessible and useful way. Our recommendation is to start with 2 policy goals. First is to increase government adoption of AI to improve public services. And second, to ensure that small business and traditional industries with fewer resources are able to adopt AI to enhance their competitiveness. We believe that these measures will drive digital transformation and AI adoption, improve efficiency and productivity, and ultimately stimulate innovation and creativity across different industries. Next, please. So to achieve these ambitious policy goals, it is essential that the benefits of AI are not only widespread, but also grounded in a system that fosters trust and responsible development. This emphasizes the need for a balanced legal framework. While making every effort to develop AI, we recommend that governments must first establish a good regulatory framework which promotes innovation and supports responsible AI development. This will help build a trustworthy environment for AI adoption across different industries in the society. Next, please. So here we have 5 recommendations, 5 principles for governments to construct a legal framework that supports responsible AI innovation. First is to adopt a risk-based approach to AI regulation. AI is a general purpose technology, so regulation should focus on the governing of high-risk use cases rather than the technology itself. So an example that I like to use is, think of it as a car engine. Regulation should focus on prioritize the risks associated with how the vehicle is used instead of on the engine itself. This approach will clarify acceptable and unacceptable uses. Second is to maintain a balanced copyright regime. Top-tier AI models require interaction with massive and diverse data. Therefore, reasonable copyright management regulation can help develop AI models and benefit various industries. Third is to encourage privacy and secure by design. Policies should support open data usage while ensuring user awareness and user control. Additionally, privacy regulations should be enhanced to strike a balance between open data utilization and individual privacy. Fourth is to consider the cross-disciplinary nature of AI and avoid fragmented regulation. In a digital era, a single issue such as data privacy can be scattered across different regulations, leading to a lack of holistic perspective. So it is important for government regulation to consider the cross-cutting nature of AI and avoid fragmented regulation. Lastly, we recommend that the government ensure regulatory interoperability by adopting international standards and norms and committing to support trusted cross-border data flow. Next page, please. So, like our CEO Sundar has said before, AI is too important not to regulate and too important not to regulate well. We are happy to see that many countries and international organizations have begun to discuss and address the issue of AI governance in recent years. Here we outlined some of the international discussions. We're also very happy to see that Taiwan's National Science and Technology Council recently proposed the AI Basic Act, which is overarching legal framework that will govern Taiwan's AI development and leave the sectoral regulation to different ministries. We believe that this is the right way to go, and we believe that this is a pivotal moment for Taiwan to demonstrate its leadership in responsible AI development in order to further strengthen its position on the global stage. And this is a model that we also would like to encourage other governments to consider. Next page, please. In closing, the era of AI is upon us. Together, we can establish effective regulations, foster innovation, and ensure that AI benefits everyone. All of the insights I've shared today can be found through our AI white paper. I'm showing the QR codes here. There's an English version and Mandarin version. I encourage you to scan these QR codes and dig into our recommendation for governments to promote economic opportunity in the era of AI. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anita. So if anyone have interest, I know that white paper just released recently, right? So if anyone have any interest, maybe you can check the report. So the next speaker is Meg Zhang. Meg is the APEC head for the content regulation policy in Meta. Before this role, she led the company's election integrity efforts in many countries across the EMEA region. So before Meta, she was also the head of operation at EU Observer, Brussels-based EU political investigation online news and outlet. She was also a management consultant working with a global 1,000 companies in North America, Europe, and the Asia Pacific. So Ms. Zhang studies politics and law at the University of Kent in the UK and the Brussels School of International Studies in Belgium. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jo Fan, and thank you everyone here at the Asia Pacific Internet Governance Forum. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here to speak to all of you. So as Jo Fan mentioned, I do run content regulation policy for the APAC region for Meta. And similar to my previous colleague, Jennifer, I'm a bit of a content geek. And so the reason why I was asked to specifically speak here is because I love governance, or looking at governance issues, and I love looking at regulatory issues. So I have a tendency to geek out, so hopefully I won't do that too much here. But like today, the topic that we're talking about is AI. And in terms of the work that I do at Meta, I travel across the Asia-Pacific region, engaging with policymakers, with governments, with civil society, academia, a lot of you in this room that I've met with before, about what is the right framework and what are the right principles when it comes to governance and when it comes to accountability of tech platforms, whether it's like a social media platform ourselves or like a search engine or whatever it is, but really like what is the right structure when it comes to the broader internet ecosystem, because it's not just about Meta. And in AI, it's even not just about Meta because there's so many players involved. So as all of you know, AI has been transformative and continues to be transformative in all of our lives. It helps increases human productivity. So I recently started learning how to use AI to summarize all of my meeting notes so that I won't have to do it myself. That AI is now doing it for me. It also unlocks scientific progress. It helps enhance education. And it also contributes trillions of dollars to the global economy. So at Meta, AI essentially powers everything at this point, down to determining the color of what you see on a page. So it's at the heart of all we do. And so if we look at like all of these products that Meta has, well, how do we bucket it? So I would say we could bucket into 3 ways. So we have the AI that sits behind all the products that all of you, or hopefully some of you, or all of you are using to some extent, like the Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. It's powering all of these products and giving all users all of the cool tools and the fun tools that they can use, like AI stickers. But it's also doing a lot of the work behind the scenes to keep our users safe. So all of the content moderation systems and the machine learning tools that we're always talking about when it comes to harmful content, AI powers all of that behind the scenes. But there's also the AI that sits behind the large language models that we use. So a lot of you probably have now heard about Llama, our open source foundation models that we are open sourcing to like researchers, to organizations and like small and medium-sized businesses to help them innovate and enhance their work. But also through that open sourcing, we're also hoping that it fosters more collaboration across all of the different players that are operating in this AI digital space. So, and then thirdly, there is the most recent AI innovation that we've launched, which is Meta AI. This is our chatbot. So with that, that was built actually on Llama 3, our open source model. And so we're hoping that all of this, like all of these different products are gonna help not only like enhance our user experience, but also like help improve a lot of the work that we're doing across behind the scenes operationally, and also to basically support all of our small and medium businesses that use our services, and also foster more innovation just across the entire digital ecosystem. Now, with all of this new technology that we have, like Meta, and basically every company is dabbling in AI in some way, like that's operating online, comes new challenges. So, and it's up to companies to make sure we build and deploy products responsibly. So we talk a lot about responsible AI. While we're continuing to explore the benefits and the opportunities for AI at Meta, for the company, for our users, and for society as a whole, we recognize it raises some very tough questions around issues such as privacy, safety, human rights, security, fairness, accountability, and the list goes on, right? It's a very, very complicated challenge. So this is where governance and reg comes in. So this is why we actively engage with policymakers. As I said, that's my job, is to really go out there and talk to all of these experts, all of these stakeholders that have a vested important interest in how AI is developing for users around the world and for people. So engaging with experts, academia, civil society, and why like Meta representatives like myself, and also Jennifer in the previous session, are here at these kind of forums. It's so important for us to continue having discussions and dialogue to help shape what AI should look like, what responsible AI should look like. So while we're still in the early stages of this new wave of AI technologies, we have an opportunity to build consensus and set out a global set of AI governance principles and standards, international standards, to avoid the fragmentation that we have seen in other areas of governance and accountability, which Anita had mentioned earlier. And especially in the space that I work in these days, I work in content regulation or in integrity regulation, there is definitely a lot of fragmentation there. Like 5 years ago, we talked about harmonization of content regulation, and then when we published our white paper on charting a way forward on content regulation, that was what we were hoping for. We haven't really managed to get there. We might have some principles, but we haven't really managed to get there. If you look at the content regulation space, it's really, really fragmented around the world. So we're hoping that learning from the lessons of all of these other developments, that we will take those lessons and bring it here to AI. We're early enough in the discussions to really building, in terms of building that consensus, building out those global principles and international standards that helps guide how we move forward. So Anita already showed you all of the different types of initiatives that are taking place. We talked about the G7, there's the White House commitments, there's the Bletchley Declaration that the UK government initiated. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of different initiatives going on that's trying to guide what the principles and the standards around this space. And so let me just kind of zoom into Meta specifically. What are the AI principles that guides the way we approach AI? And I don't think it's very different from the principles in general that we use for all of our other products. But I'll just highlight some of them specifically, and I think it's gonna mirror a lot of what Google has, and you'll see that like any other company that has responsible AI principles, it's largely similar. So it's like, how do we bring all of these different principles together so that we're all speaking the same language? So starting with privacy and security, that's very obvious. Making sure that we are protecting the privacy and the data of our users, of the people that are operating on our platforms. Fairness. So this is everyone should be treated fairly when using our products, and they should work equally for all people, all cultures, all languages. Now that's difficult. So this is where we really need to be having more conversation. Safety and integrity. So this is the space that I spend the most of my time in. So AI systems should meet high performance standards and should be tested to ensure they behave safely and as intended. Then there's transparency and control. And there's that discussion around transparency and control has been going on for a long time now, especially when you talk about like algorithms, ranking algorithms. So it's not new to the discussion today. It's just maturing these principles around transparency and control. People who use our products should have more transparency and control over the user experience. And then accountability and governance, of course. So ensuring that that our AI systems and the decisions that they're making, that there are mechanisms in place to review how these AI systems are operating and how do we hold these algorithms to account, so that this way we're all constantly iterating, right, and ensuring that the AI is operating as intended. So having a robust set of policies and processes to stress test our AI products across all of these areas is key to our work, from design to development to launch. So built into all of these processes from design to launch is like things like safety by design, privacy by design, security by design, which is really important. And from our products to be trusted and widely adopted by our users, we need to make sure our AI products are safe and being deployed responsibly. So how's Meta doing this? First, our integrity efforts remain the top priority for the company, which is why we have thousands of people working on this, and we've made loads of investment. So you've probably heard this number before. We have around 40,000 people working on safety and security. Since 2016, we've invested over $20 billion on safety and security across the company. We're building safeguards into our generative AI models and products from the beginning, and working with others to collaborate on establishing guardrails. We're doing extensive red teaming with external experts as well as internal teams to help ensure our models are safer and more inclusive. We're training and fine-tuning our models to fit our safety and responsibility guidelines, and we're building in guardrails to limit inappropriate or harmful content on our platforms or any of our tools. And then there's one point that I want to make, which goes back to transparency. We're publicly sharing information of how a lot of our AI tools work. So for example, we've published last year 22 citizen cards that talks about all the recommender systems on Facebook and Instagram, hoping that by having that knowledge of how these systems cards works, then our users as well as the public can scrutinize and hold us to account for it. But it also provides that user education that's needed so that users can be better informed and be smarter about how they're using the tools and how to keep themselves safe. On that though, like we could put all the transparency out there in the world, and I'm quite passionate about this, and this is why I'm like calling it out specifically. We can put all the transparency out there in the world, but if the users don't really understand what any of that means for them, then it's not really meaningful or relevant then. So I think it's really important as part of when we think about transparency, when we're thinking about user empowerment, that we're also thinking about education and how do we build that into the governance framework, into the work that we're doing, being more human-centric about things so that this way, like, we bring our users along the journey as well so that they're not wondering what is all of this, because the AI is really, really complicated. And then very importantly, participating in the global fora and participating in all of these discussions, which then fosters collaboration, which is why all of us here, this is so important, right? All of us having these discussions. So this brings me back to needing a global framework for governance. As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of initiatives out there now. How do we bring all of these initiatives together so that we're all kind of talking the same language, where we're all building, working towards responsibility in a way that's really going to help society at large, as opposed to looking at just specifics. And then also like, and also like to help guide all of the national discussions that are taking place. Policymakers are looking to regulate. Though we're in the very early stages of all of this new AI technology, and where a lot of us feel like maybe it's too early to regulate because we are potentially going to stifle innovation, and to Anita's point about needing to make sure that whatever governance framework or regulatory framework that we put in place, it needs to balance all of the different values that we have, where it's safety, privacy, security, et cetera, with also being pro-innovation so that we don't end up stifling the possible opportunities and the benefits of AI as well. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you for Max sharing from mainly the Meta's perspective. Okay, the next speaker is George. George is a practitioner scholar with over 2 decades of expertise across the media, technology, and public policy. Currently now, George is the managing director, the head of Hong Kong and Taiwan offices, and the co-chair of digital practice for the Asia Group, advising the Fortune 500 clients on geopolitical issues, national security, and various regulatory issues. Before this role, George was also the Meta and the Facebook, and the first and the senior policy leaders for the Greater China, Mongolia, and the Central Asia for over 7 years. So now George is also the senior fellow of the Center for Civil Society and Governance at the University of Hong Kong. George has been also on the board of Enchen in Hong Kong since 2019, and he is also the author of 3 books. Okay, yeah, George, please.
Thanks, Xiufan. First of all, always good to be back to Taiwan, and thanks for having me for the APrIGF. Can we show the slides? Okay, great. I worked for Meta, and it's good to be on the same panel with my colleagues too. Now I work for the consulting company. We provide advice to different clients. So I hope I have more freedom to share some different perspectives. I also wear the academic hat, so sometimes helping me to think more critically. So the topic it might not sound very promising. It's at least I'm a bit worried that the future of AI will help to make the world more divided and less equal, rather than I remember when I worked for Meta, Mark Zuckerberg talks about to keep the world closer together. So that's my worry. But anyway, so you will see how it goes. Before we talk about AI, let's talk about the internet. how many of you realize actually today's internet is not just one internet? Today's internet is already very divided. We at least have the typical 3 internet models: the U.S. model, the EU model, and the China model, right? US, America is great, for having Silicon Valley, a lot of cutting-edge technology. So, partly because USA is a pretty much free market. This is how you got so many great startups, right? Including Meta and Google. And if you look at the EU, it is a very, very regulated market these days. I can't help but sharing a joke. No offense to our friends from EU, if you are here. Some people say, the US has Silicon Valley, China has Great Firewall. What does EU have? EU have legislations. Like, whatever, something, they don't feel comfortable, let's make a legislation. There's benefits and pros and cons about that. And so we are looking into this. The most recently development is the DMA and also DSA that add significant compliance cost to technology companies. And a lot of companies will think about whether they should stay EU or they should look elsewhere. And China, everybody knows, right? It's really ironic to talk about China's internet model, as we have the APrIGF in Taiwan. But it's also a gentle reminder that freedom should not be taken for granted forever. If you think about the access to the internet in China, some people will say it's more like the intranet, right? Don't get me wrong. China also has great services, the BAT, but it's more like a domestic players. So that's where the internet is today, right? And in theory, again, if I wear my academic hat, I highly recommend the book by Professor Arnaud Bradford from Columbia Law School. So her theory is, this is why we have 3 internets. The USA is market-driven, free market, right? China is a state-led model, and the EU is, the so-called rights-driven, because the EU Parliament represents the people of European Union. I have a little bit different view from Professor Arnold. I met her when she published the book. She had a book tour, and we met in Hong Kong. We talked about this. And I feel, USA, the model is certainly, more pro-innovation, as Anita and Mag, talk about, how important innovation means, for AI, especially as an emerging technology. And China, if you talk about technology, ultimately it's about ideology. It's not about technology. It's all about how the party, can control, how you feel, what you think, what you do, blah, blah, blah. So in almost every single aspect, technology as a tool to have impact on ideology, or in a way, brainwash is just one, part of it, right? And then EU, yes, we need the regulations, but sometimes you also get a sense that the EU is moving towards more, about protectionism. Partly, I just want to be very honest with you. I feel like the EU is definitely left behind in terms of competition for advanced technologies over the past, 2 to 3, decades. The most glory times, if you talk about Nokia versus iPhone, I think that's certainly a turning point. So I'm not really a big fan of EU for various reasons. I think we should not let regulations kill or harm innovation, especially when technology like AI is still at the very early stage, right? So my point number 1 is the internet is politics, and AI will only make the internet even more political. And I encourage everyone, if you miss, the recent op-ed by Sam Altman of OpenAI in Washington Post, it's certainly worth a read. And Sam's view is basically, this is now, we are at sort of a crossroad, to decide whether, AI should be led by, democratic, countries, with more democratic values versus authoritarian regions, and what are the consequences, or what the unintended consequence could be. And I think this is a fascinating read. And Sam just confirmed, how AI, could be political, and also about ideology. And this is one of my favorite slides. And just to show you, I think Anita also shared a little bit about it, the sort of the current status of AI regulations globally, right? So the USA is kind of a mix of executive orders, guidance, also a bit, self-regulatory frameworks. In a way, the Biden administration does want to give some space, to the big tech to develop advanced AI technologies. And I think that model currently work pretty well, given AI as I mentioned as an emerging technology rather than as an established knowledge. So there's still a lot of things like we don't know, right? And I like the line in Anita's stack. You said it's too important not to regulate the AI, but it's also very important if we regulate the AI in very bad ways, right? And then you come to EU. Everybody knows, EU just passed the first AI Act. When I worked in my previous life, when I worked for Reuters, my editors always told me it's not always, to be first. It's more important to be right. So it doesn't really mean anything if you want to be the first, EU, to issue the first AI Act. But in fact, we already heard a lot of backlashes in terms of enforcement, implementations after the legislation is passed. Sometimes I feel the EU Parliament these days is in a rush, like just for the purpose of making regulations, and they, oh yeah, let's make a legislation. So that kind of mindset needs to be, double checked when it comes to technology and in innovation. And in more like a Northeast Asian part, of the world, Japan, Korea, they are all, doing their own, public consultations, on AI, what kind of the regulations could be. And as our fellow panelists mentioned, Taiwan is also doing, going through the process for the AI basic law. So far it looks like, Taiwan's version will, closer to, the US model, more pro, innovation rather than, the EU AI Act has serious consequence on, if you violate, the bill, and then there will be like a financial fines, in terms of the percentage of the global revenue. So that's quite serious. And the China model, I probably don't have time to deep dive it, but it's like a very complicated mix of different sets of regulations, from deepfake, to algorithm. And these days, if you are an AI startup in China, you need to submit your LLM to the regulator first, and then they need to prove that your model fits, a set of regulations set by the Cybersecurity Administration of China. And there are also media reports saying China wants the AI products and services available in China carry the socialist values. That part I don't quite get it. How AI gets the socialist values unless you train the AI in a certain ways to get it to be more socialistic. But anyway, so China is a very different model, and they will be more on their own. In Xi Jinping's language, this is part of the self-reliance on technology too, right? We will see how it goes. And Singapore is leading the way, for ASEAN in terms of, the AI guidance. So overall, just to wrap up, I hope, you agree with me that, our internet is very divided, at least in 3 different models. And AI currently is even, more mixed, than, the traditional internet governance. Just, given AI's implications in almost every single aspect, we can think of, right? Yeah. But I don't want to end my presentation, with like, oh, this is going to be really bad. There is still some hope. We always need to look at the bright side. It's very good to see, the UK played a leading role, I think last year, 2 years ago, no, just last year, to start the Global AI Safety Summit in the UK, and then Korea co-hosted early this year in May. So at least now we have, 1 or 2 major global platforms where countries can get together, to discuss AI governance. China was actually invited to the AI Safety Summit, the first one in London. And here's also my suggestion. I think Taiwan also needs to step up, to be, get more involved in those international dialogues rather than, back to this older game. Oh, because there's China, Taiwan cannot participate. And then, you shouldn't be just, on the sideline to wait others to decide, what kind of AI regulations should be, for the region or for the country. last but not least, my fellow panelists are talking about this, right? So we talk about the government, we talk about the policymakers. Of course, the business also has a role in AI governance, and I feel like I can just sum up you guys' points. So no matter which company you work for, there is a general responsible AI approaches, to AI governance, which is good, right? And I agree with Meg. I think Google has your version of responsible AI, Red has your version. It's important to come together and agree on the shared values, and then you can come up with an industry framework, sort of as an industry code, and then people. We even haven't time to talk about how portable the AI applications could be, right? So to have a shared industry framework is important for the long-term development of AI. So that's my very quick sharing. Thanks. We'll be happy to take some questions later. Yeah.
Thank you, George, to share this. Okay, next one is Isabel. Isabel is the Secretary General of Taiwan AI Academy Foundation, which he helped establish in 2017. So she's also the member of the Ministry of Digital Affairs Human Rights Working Group. She also wears many other hats and has been in leadership position of various civic technology and community efforts, including Jilin. Her work focuses on the innovative technology, open data, open government, AI, and the related digital governance issues. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to be here. I'm so glad that I follow up after George, because AI is politics. So we should solve the problem through democratic process. So first part, I want to emphasize that in my point of view, I think AI is a general purpose technology. So what we are facing is our industrial revolution. So if there is a revolution, there will be casualties. So that's what we should be very cautious and care about. And so I want to mention about AI safety. We talk about AI safety a lot, but I kind of skeptical about how many people here are actually realize what it's about. So I think AI safety is of the value alignment problems. It means how can we make AI robustly serve human value? So there will be two questions. So what are human values anyway? The value in China and in Taiwan could be very different. And also the second question is the technical alignment problem. How can we make AI robustly serve any intended goal at all? I think Professor Tai has suffered this quite a lot when he tried fine-tune the Taiwanese chat GPT. And then I saw this cartoon from the comic from the website. I think it's perfectly explained what AI safety means. There's a master in the room says to his robot, says, keep this house clean. So the robot received the objective. She said, okay, keep house clean. So the question is, what caused the mess? The answer is clear. The human caused the mess. So the solution is quite clear. Get rid of the humans. Just throw the human out of the house. So that's a problem of AI safety. I feel the same as the robot that every time when my house is clean, I want to throw my 3 sons out of my apartment. So so if you don't understand this and don't feel, so maybe you can just watch, there is a movie, I think it was produced like 40 years ago. It's a Space Odyssey 2001. It explained the question of the problem of AI safety perfectly. So there is another problem we hear a lot, is hallucination. So the hallucinate even become the word of the year, 2023. So what do you think about hallucination? it's a feature or a bug? I also asked myself about this question. According to the president of our academy, Professor Kong, he is very certain that the hallucination is a feature of AI. He said AI make mistakes by definition. So if if the hallucination is a feature, so then we should adapt to it. But if it is a bug, we need to fix it with policy tools and technology tools. How should we deal all of this AI governance and policy problems? I borrowed the concept of Professor Lawrence Lessig. Okay, so I borrowed the concept of Professor Lawrence Lessig about cyber law. I think when we talk about this, there are actually 4 dimensions. There is norm, law, market, and code. And when we talk about AI, actually, I think the programmers made most of the decision at this moment. So there are a lot of proposals about how we should talk about this. And we also will need AI evaluation certification process and how to do this. But I think the core issue and the things here is we should do this through a democratic process. So I would like to mention some democratization of AI, some efforts we tried in Taiwan. The first thing is education. We bring the AI technology from researchers to for engineers and for all, and empower the deliberation on AI with AI, and also local data sets enable AI alignment with local culture and the societal value. The first thing is the AI Academy. We are established in 2017, so it's sponsored by 6 big enterprises in Taiwan. So over the past 7 years, we have trained 11,000 Chinese from more than 2,000 companies, and the average age of these Chinese are over 40s. So it's a reskill and upskill programs, not for the young people. So we want to equip these adults with new technologies so we can fit into the new era as good as possible. So, and also we try to close the gap of valley of death. So what does it mean? This is a professor from MIT. Professor Mosley was diagnosed cancer at I think 2011. And she was treated in MGH, Massachusetts General Hospital. It's a very good hospital. But when she finished the treatment, she said she was very confused because she said the hospital and NIT is just 1 subway stop away, but they are separated by a bridge. But how come we have all this great technology in MIT, but none of this is actually coming to the hospitals and helping patients? So the AI Academy is trying to close this gap, bring the research results to the real world. And also, last year, we held the AIGC impact workshops. So we talk a lot about what the impact should be. And another thing we do is AI Assembly, sponsored and collaborated with MODA in Taiwan. We use AI tools to discuss about how we should regulate AI. We host 4 workshops and bring more than 400 participants, and we have more than 2,000 opinions. So what we do with this, we actually use AI tools to record all the conversations and the discussions and make transcript. And then we use AI tools to analyze this. And we have this, bring it, the opinions, categorize it, and bring it back to the online platform to invite more general public public discussion. And we want to bring the result back to the experts and start the cycle again. So these are another project we are trying. It's a traditional Chinese or AI open source grant. We have this grant for people here in Taiwan to collect data in the category of legal, education, and medical health. Then because in these three categories, I think there will be no one outside Taiwan to do the data collection for us, and which will be very important for training of this large language model. And we hope these results will be also be included in the large language model training by Google or Meta or other big companies. So I think that's my sharing today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So the last speaker is Richard Tai, Professor Richard Tai. Richard received a PhD degree in computer science and information engineering from National Taiwan University. So he is currently a professor of computer science and information engineering with the National Central University. He's also a researcher with the Center for Geographic Information Science and the Research Center for Humanity and Social Science, Academia Sinica, Taiwan. So his primary research interests include the natural language processing, deep learning, dialogue systems, cross-lingual information access, sentiment analysis, and digital humanities. He's also the core model training coordinator at the TIDE project, which is a really interesting project to develop a trustworthy Gen AI for Taiwan. Yeah, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm Richard Tsai, and my response to Isabel about hallucination is, this is a beautiful misuse. Because why I think it is beautiful, because I think every time when audience hearing hallucination, everyone is laughing. So it is a beautiful misuse, not a feature, not a bug. Okay, so let me summarize the trend in AI development recently. I think all models are being released quickly, with each new model claiming to be better than the last. This constant competition pushes innovation, but it means that no model stays the best for long. And the second is major companies like Meta, Microsoft, and Google, hopefully OpenAI is not here, so I ignore it, are building big general purpose AI models. And these models can do many things, but they are very expensive to create, and are usually only built by companies with lots of resources. Do you know that Llama 3.18 billion? Do you know how much it costs for training? Actually, I estimate it cost 100 million NT dollars. Anyone has this money? Oh, so it is very expensive, even it is just 8 billion. And lastly, other groups are focusing on smaller AI models that are designed for specific tasks. These models are cheaper to make and easier to adjust, making them faster to use for particular needs. And then let me introduce what is TIDE. TIDE is a key project in Taiwan's AI development. It focuses on creating LLM that fits Taiwan's culture and language needs. This model is designed to work with traditional Chinese, which is very different from simplified Chinese, and helps with tasks like writing, summarizing, and translating. But it's trustworthy free if is serious. There are costs involved. Let me explain in details. So this is like cooking ramen. Even though safe noodles and pork were carefully selected, as soon as the 7 flavor powder, 七味粉, containing Sudan Red, Sudan Hong, is added at the end, all the previous efforts are wasted, and this bowl of ramen becomes unsafe. So Tide model is based on the trustworthy foundation model, Llama, and is trained with trustworthy local Chinese text data, self-produced fine-tuning data, and self-produced human preference alignment data. So everything is self-produced. To prepare this trustworthy data, we spent nearly a year. So that's why we spent around a year to release Tide. And this table shows that Tide is finally comparable to ChatGPT 3.5 on the 5 major tasks identified by us. So you can see that. And this chart highlights the rapid uptake of the Tide LLM in Taiwan, with actual downloads recorded by LLM Studio reaching 26K in just 2 weeks. So let me further introduce what is Taiwan AI Action Plan 2.0. It supports the Tide project and aims to boost the AI industry in Taiwan. This plan is about training people, growing the AI industry, and making Taiwan more competitive globally. It also addresses issues like job shortages and aging population and environmental challenges. So let me share about my opinion about opportunities for AI development by 2030, although it is just guess and maybe very inaccurate. So AI first is AI in everyday life. By 2030, AI will be part of our daily routines, helping us personal assistants, tutors, and more. Using AI will feel as nature as talking to another person, making our daily tasks easier and faster. And second, changing the physical world. AI will not just be about computers, it will also change the way we use machines in the real world. And smarter robots will be able to do many different jobs, not just simple tasks. And lastly, addressing labor shortages. With fewer people being born, there will be a shortage of workers for basic jobs, including entry-level office work. AI and robots can help fill these gaps, taking on tasks that are hard to find workers, which we can see, we have already seen. Whether in factories, delivery service, or office environments, handling tasks like data entry, customer support, and the basic administrative duties. And in my opinion, challenge for AI development by 2030s, AI could replace many jobs, making economy inequality worse. Policies like UBI might be needed to help these affected. And AI needs a lot of data, which increases the risk of data leaks, misuse, and copyright issues. Protecting data and respecting ownership rights is crucial. But we can see the leaked video in Stanford a week ago. We can see that the data problem is very serious. And third is AI decisions might be biased, affecting fairness. It's important to make AI systems transparent and fair to keep public trust. And fourth, AI is developing so quickly that current laws may not keep up, making it hard for government to protect people while encouraging innovation. And lastly, AI's needs for power could strain energy resources. Balancing AI growth with sustainable energy use is a key challenge. In my point of view, Taiwan's AI strategy should be start inside, then expand outside. Start inside the government. Taiwan's government is first using AI inside its own agencies, like with TIDE for processing data and helping with tasks. This helps test AI and shows how it can work well before sharing it with the public. And second, expand slowly to avoid risks. And third is teach and communicate clearly. By using AI successfully inside the government first, Taiwan can explain AI's benefits and safety to the public better. This clear communication helps build trust and understanding. Okay, so let's talk about global perspective and local development. In fact, in my opinion, Taiwan doesn't have the resources to develop LLM on its own. So it's important to work closely with big companies like Meta, Microsoft, and Google. Taiwan can take their open source models and customize them to meet the specific needs of local users. Additionally, Taiwan can collaborate with other countries to share resources. For example, working with Asian countries to share data and evaluation methods would be beneficial. This approach can help lower risks and the cost of developing LLMs, especially Taiwan has many people from Southeast Asia, making such cooperation even more relevant. So my suggestion for policymakers is, first, encourage collaboration. Policymakers should offer incentives to make it easier for university and companies to work together. And second is to reward data providers. To get more companies and research institutions and individuals to share their valuable data, policymakers should create rewards. So this could be things like tax breaks or financial incentives. And third is promote AI education. Policymakers should encourage AI education programs to train more people in creating data sets and performing evaluations. Like in my project, I successfully educate 20 Mandarin teachers to learn how to compile data sets and evaluations. That's the value of collaboration and education. So if you want, you can use AI to make fun like me. I use TIDE to write the lyrics with me and create a song. Let's check out it. Thank you.
Thank you for all our panelists. So I think the floor, we will open to the floor. But while we are waiting, I mean, is anyone have any interest and questions? Just stand. But I think I will have some privilege. I have to ask some questions first. So while people standing in front of the mic. So we talk a lot about, we mentioned about like internet and also AI. I mean, the relationship. I think when internet developed, I think maybe it's kind of lucky because it's still, I mean, it's really small scale and from the lab, so not, many, governments pay a lot of attention to that. So now we have more like a bottom up, I mean, this approach. But AI is very different. Although, we are still developing AI, we try to, explore what is the potential development. But now we have enormous attention from all the people, all the society, all the governments. So now we see like EU, they have their model, I mean, to regulate, and US also have their thought. And in China, of course, it also represents a really interesting model. So when we all talk about, I mean, just in the past almost 1 hour, talk about more like, like engagement, like a discussion and a conversation, dialogue. But in the end, we need to take actions, or the government need to take actions. So how we can make sure, I mean, this kind of like a fragmentation will not become, worse? Or you think is the fragmentation is not, is the inevitable? And what will be the better approach, I mean, to make sure that we can make sure that AI development will develop, I mean, in a more like a responsible or transparent or beneficial way. So I think especially now we can see from the ChatGPT case. So when, just one company just launched the product, then suddenly, it's launched, I mean, at a global scale. But actually, like each country, like this week, we heard a lot of even small countries, and they say, oh, we don't really understand. I mean, we are marginalized, I mean, in this area. And also like Richard just mentioned that, like also Taiwan does not really have resources, I mean, to develop, I mean, its own AI, I mean, maybe strategy or big, I mean, models. So, I mean, under this situation, so how when, I mean, the product or service will be launched, I mean, really quickly at a global scale, but each country, each society and countries have their own, I mean, unique, I mean, situation and challenge, or even, I mean, opportunity. How we can make sure, I mean, the AI development will be developed in a really responsible and beneficial way. So I think maybe this question is for George and Isabel. You mentioned about the regulatory. And also I have a question for Richard, and also maybe for Anita and Meg as well. So Richard, you mentioned that it's very, I mean, the older models requires a lot of resources. It's very expensive investment. It means that, so when, I mean, we are now, I mean, developing more and more larger, I mean, models, maybe the big technology companies will play increasingly important role. So, but we all know that, I mean, when you have, such big investment, then definitely, I mean, at some point, return will be required. So under this situation, how do you think, especially I think you raised a really interesting, I mean, point that Taiwan should, I mean, work together with the big technology companies. So because we don't have any resources, I mean, ourselves. And then so we need to, work together and to make sure that we make use of the, I mean, all the possibility, opportunity to develop our, I mean, Taiwan's AI strategy. So, but I mean, this conflict between like, the business and also, I mean, more society, and how we can also make sure, I mean, all the development will be good, I mean, for all the stakeholder or all the society. So I think it's my two questions, please. The first question.
Okay, I think Ruoban raised a lot of questions, but I will focus on how should we make sure that the AI benefits all of us. I was reading the Meta Llama responsible use of guide this morning, because our academy is collaborating with Meta to host a hackathon, Llama hackathon in Taiwan. I'm very excited about this because I think open source model is really, really important in democratization of AI technology. But at the same time, I'm thinking about, I think that if we want to make sure this technology is good for everyone, I think we should pay more attention on who is actually doing and creating, inventing the technology. I mean the developers, include those in the big companies and also the open source developers. But as far as I understand, I think most of developers, they don't really care about this. They don't really know what ethic means. They are not that aware of their making decisions about the ethic, the value of the whole human beings. And also they don't really understand how to be responsible when they are developing these technologies. So I think we need to provide more tools and think more approaches and methods, enable and empower them to understand the responsibility they need to take. Like providing maybe, I'm thinking about the license and certification in some way. Because we are lawyers, so we need to pass bar exam. But if you are involved in developing frontier models, don't you need to know this will affect maybe the whole human being and maybe destroy all of us tomorrow? So that's something came to my mind. And yeah, I think, well, what I can do, I will bring these issues back to our academy and trying to provide more programs, classes around these issues in our academy.
I'll touch on the sort of, how we take thoughts into actions. I think what we miss here is, I talked about, the UK hosted the first AI safety forum, but I'm also thinking of, we should have, we should use, those regional or global pacts, even trade pacts and platforms, something like APrIGF, which Taiwan is also a member, or the CPTPP, because AI will be, definitely be part of the trade, too, back behind the trade, right? So if we can come up with some regional agreement on how to use AI for business, that's one aspect. So at least we have some framework to play with. The most dangerous part of AI is, of course, AI for military, for national defense, right? It's actually quite good to see, Washington and Beijing also realize that, that could be, a very, high cost, flashpoint. So the two countries agree to at least sit down, to, discuss, how to prevent, sort of, AI will be like the new nuclear, basically, right? If you think about the Cold War, it's about, how many missiles you have. It's unthinkable if, people put AI, for a war, and then this is not like a human fight with human. It's more like a machine fighting with machine. So this was like quite incredible. So those are the aspects. I think we should still have some framework, either on the regional or on the bilateral level, to have some sort of agreements. But I'm also more worried about, in my presentation, I talk about, how divided the world could be, because of the all the disagreements over how AI should be governed. But I'm also more worried whether today we talk about in the era of AI how less equal the world could be, because AI is now led up by all the big countries, China, America. If you think about global South perspective, who's going to take up them, right? Even when Meta launched the Meta AI, when Mark Zuckerberg announced, yeah, we got Meta AI, But the fact is, when Meta announced the AI in Asia Pacific region, the AI was only first available in 4 markets: Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, and Pakistan. And you will be wondering why. Anyone make a guess? Because those countries are English-speaking countries. That's why. And then, back to my point, if that is the basis, how we drive innovation and only focus on the convenience, because ARM is English, right? And then what about, Chinese is like common language, but I used to cover Central Asia. Think about those countries, right? Think about Global South. So we are going to have a less equal countries, a less equal world, because of the highly advanced technologies and highly concentrated in just several big country powers. I know this sounds like I'm not like a really idealist, but I still want to put this on the table as a question mark if this could be part of the takeaways from this conference. Thanks.
Thank you. So Richard, do you want to quickly? Sorry to keep you waiting.
Okay, so I'm standing in the technical part and for Taiwanese, and so I really appreciate that big companies like Meta, Microsoft, and Google, they take their responsibility to release many open source models, and I think because we cannot we cannot regulate how these companies develop models, because they didn't develop model inside Taiwan. But I think big companies, I encourage big companies can do one thing, that to include more Taiwanese citizens join the development of large language models, including provide more job opportunities or collaborate with local academia, offering joint research projects and internships, which strengthen industry academia ties and prepare next generation of AI professionals. If including more Taiwanese citizens, then I think this is helpful for improve the transparency, and we can have more AI talents in Taiwan. And Taiwan is actually is a very good at integrity and a very good partner. So I hope that big company can provide more opportunities for Taiwanese person. Thanks.
Thank you. So Anita or Meg, do you want to also share a little bit?
Thank you, Jovan, for the question. I think, like my co-panelists have mentioned, I think these are multi-stakeholder questions, and this is why we're all gathering here today to discuss the challenges, the opportunities, and what we should do together as a community. So if we take example of the challenges when internet first started to boom, when this community started to get together, the multi-stakeholder approach, I think, really benefited everybody. So when we talk about the potential challenges that AI may bring to us and how we can do together to address those challenges, we believe that a multi-stakeholder approach to AI governance is still the way to go. Some challenges may require like fundamental research to better understand AI's benefits and risks, and that might be on the part of the academics. There may need to be development of new technical innovations in areas like interoperability and watermarking, and that might be on the commercial companies like ourselves and like Meta. And governments, what can government do? As I mentioned earlier, governments can promote the adoption of AI, for example, through government services, because government has the power to convince citizens to use more AI. So by adopting AI in government services, for example, the government can promote a trend of AI adoption. So different stakeholders in this topic have different roles and responsibility. And like the internet community got together to address all of the challenges with internet, I believe that a multi-stakeholder approach is also the way to go to address the issues with AI. Thank
you. Just to add to what Anita said, right? I think multi-stakeholder approach, I think is pretty much, we all can agree to that. And I think it's not just about AI, right? Multi-stakeholder governance, multi-stakeholder collaboration is something that we need when it comes to all of the different issues across the digital ecosystem. And AI, of course, is like the big topic that we're talking about now. So, but I think in terms of like taking that step further, like what kind of multi-stakeholder governance, and then how do we then ensure that the companies are building for the good of society and the good of their users. And you've talked about like the engineers at the companies, making sure that there's diversity in that population of developers, as well as needing to, because they don't care, right? I think that I think that you can say that about a lot of different professions and industries as well, right? Some people go to work for a paycheck. They don't necessarily care. So how do you make sure you have the right guardrails to ensure that they are meeting certain standards? And I think this is what goes back to the whole governance, why we need these principles, why we need these standards, because whether you care or not, you should at least meet these principles that's guiding how we do things and meet these standards how we do things. Another piece, which then goes back to like what you were saying about AI education or AI, and I'm even hearing about AI literacy, right? To have that diversity in the workforce, to be able to be building in a way that's mindful of all the different cultures and stuff requires upskilling of skills. So like we've talked about labor shortages in the last presentation. Well, with those labor shortages, then you have to then counterbalance it. And so I think these are all, like, I think essentially what I'm saying is there's a lot of trade-offs that needs to be considered. And how do we balance all of this to be able to then like really get to it? But I think at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is how do we bring governance into this, build out a digital ethics framework of some sort, not just a governance framework, but digital ethics that guides how we do things as a user, as an engineer, etc.
Thank you, Meg and Anita. So sorry to keep you wait for so long.
Thank you, Jovan.
Yeah, please say your name and also the question.
Okay, my name is Max Chen. I work for Meta, and my question actually for Richard, Professor Tsai, and potentially also Isabel, if you are involved in this process. So one thing first, thank you very much for using Llama 3, 2, and 3. And I'm really excited to see how the new model is going to be released, fine-tuned based on the Llama 3.1. So my question for you, Professor Tsai, as a developer, during the past year of collecting, high-quality data, trustworthy data, and train those data using Llama 2 or 3, were there any moment of dilemma or finding really hard balances between safety, intellectual property, and others? Were there any moments? How did you navigate those? And because you are also very embedded with the National Science and Technology Council, the regulatory process, were any findings or were any lessons during that process be reflected in the draft law that we are seeing now? And from your point of view, are they future-proof? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we collect the question together and then have, yeah, okay, thank you.
Oh, this is a bit high, okay. Hello, my name is Yujin. I'm a student majoring in computer science in Sungmyeong Women's University in Korea. Thank you for sharing so much insight about the AI because I'm certainly very interested in them. I actually have two questions. Possibly, I think the best person who might be able to answer this is related to Meta or Google, I guess. So the first one is, during the lecture, there was the certain things about principles for using AI or utilizing AI, right? So you said that there are measures to protect personal data as of users, right? So I was curious to see what exactly that means, because protecting personal data can have two big sides, which is to not utilize personal data or certain parts of very sensitive data in the training section, or to prevent the results from displaying sensitive data, so it wouldn't be utilized in a bad way. And also, about the first part, about not actually using any kind of personal sensitive data, there could be also two parts about maybe if you're utilizing the personal data to train, then there is a way of notifying the users every time their data is used, so they can be warned. Or there could be another way of that certain really sensitive data are not utilized, like your photos on the Instagram or something could be utilized to be trained, but at the same time your metadata about where you live is not going to be displayed, or something like that. And also when it comes to preventing results from having sensitive data, there also can be a sense of, because AI, we don't exactly know what is happening inside the AI, we can train them to do what we want, so the results can sometimes not come out in the way we want, in the sense that our personal data may be used. So how are we able to, how is the actual company's policy or on this kind of topic I was curious about. And sorry for making the question a little long, only one part. So said there are measures to safeguard the generative AI from the beginning, and I was curious who actually make the safeguard. What are the standards and what kind of morals and cultural aspects are considered into making the safeguards? Because we all live in a very different cultural context, and sometimes our morals of ethicality could be very different. Thank you for listening to my long questions.
Thank you for the two great questions. So maybe, Richard, you want to answer the first question?
Hello? Okay. Yeah. Thanks for Max's question. And I admit that we encountered many dilemmas and troubles when try to create trustworthy data by ourselves. So in the beginning, we are struggling using if we need to use web scraped data, and because in the beginning we have very few licensed data, but as time goes by and we fortunately we got many supports from different institutes like CNA and ET Today. So after their support, we got enough data to continue pre-train our model to be that can speak traditional Chinese very fluently. So I think above a threshold, then we finally accomplish the task of turning the model to be speak in a Taiwanese way. And the other trouble is it's very hard for us to compile the supervised fine-tuning data because we don't have so many workers to compile like hundreds of thousands input and response pairs, and we actually developed a new technology to overcome this difficulty called chat vector. Originally we used ChatGPT as the model to generate the supervised fine-tuning data, but finally we use Llama 2 70B because we we can use chat vector to turn the original Llama 270B to Llama 270B traditional Chinese version without any training. So that's the success brought by our invention, our innovation. Yeah.
Thank you. So maybe Meg and Anita, maybe you have spent like 1 minute. Yeah,
okay, so I'll start from a meta perspective, right? I think the question was, how do we ensure that we are living up to our principles and values around privacy and data security for our users? And then also, how do we prevent like mishaps, essentially, right? So starting off with the use of data. So I think it's very, very important, like in terms of making sure that users are aware of how data is being used. So there comes the transparency component into this. The transparency component also comes into like making sure that users understand it as well. We're just not making it transparent, but understand it and because they need to be able to trust that we are responsibly using the data in a way that for a very clear purpose. And the consent comes in as well. So I think those are all it's not just like, and when it comes to privacy, it's not just specific to how we're using data for AI, but it's basically across the entire spectrum of all our services, right? When data is concerned, when people's data are concerned. So it's not just unique to the AI tools and products that we have. So, so I wanted to say that in terms of and then in terms of internally, how do we then manage all of this? And how do we ensure that what we are telling our users and in terms of how we're using their data, how we are collecting that data, we're storing that data, how do they know? And I also wanted just to there was also the question, how do we know that you're not collecting all this additional data? Well, there are very clear data minimization principles as well that's attached to privacy that ensures that where we have to be very, very purposeful about how the data that we're collecting be able to justify it. And also we don't want to be housing all this data that potentially could have security concerns, right? So, but in terms of internally, how do we internalize this? We basically at Meta, like every single one of us working at Meta, it has a responsibility. It's built into the culture. We have a responsibility to ensure that we are abiding by the company's privacy values and principles. What does that mean? And so to the point about what about the people who don't care about privacy at the company? Well, this is why it's so important to have the right protocols, the processes, and the standards in place that even if you don't care about it, you still have to live up to it if you want to be working at Meta. So aside from having it built into the culture, we have processes, we have very stringent privacy reviews for all of our products before they're launched, and we have ongoing privacy reviews for it. We have ongoing risk assessments, and then to some extent, this information is shared publicly when we go through a lot of these different reviews. So not so long ago, we published a paper about how we deal with privacy, or on a regular basis, we're publishing papers on how we deal with privacy. And as the risks around privacy alters and changes, we're updating this information for the public to be aware of. Red teaming is also really important. So we do extensive red teaming when it comes to all of our work. And we're not just looking for specific harms in terms of terrorist content, but also to when it comes to privacy risks as well. So I think I'll just kind of leave it there and then have Anita take it.
Thank you, Meg. So I think second question of yours is how do we decide those AI principles? Because every country, every region has different moral and cultural standards, and how do we ensure that those principles are universal? So I don't know if it's possible to pull up my presentation, but if not, I can read from my slides. So the Google AI principle that we announced in 2018 has two sections. One is what AI should be used to do. One is what AI should not be used to do. So on the what AI should be doing, there are things like AI should be socially beneficial. AI should avoid creating or reinforcing unfair biases. AI should be built and tested for safety, be accountable to people, incorporate privacy design principles, uphold high standards of scientific excellence, and be made available for users that accords with these principles. So as you can imagine, these 7 principles are universally true, I believe. So whether you live in the American continent, European continent, or APAC, I believe that these are universally true principles that everybody should support the good cause of AI. So what AI should not be used, our principle says applications we will not pursue are those that are likely to cause overall harm, technologies that are primarily intended to cause injury, surveillance violating internationally accepted norms, and also purpose contravenes international law and human rights. So again, I think wherever you live, wherever you are from, these 4 areas, I believe nobody will say, no, 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 we want to design products that will contravene internationally accepted human rights principle, or we want to develop products that are primarily used for harms. So I think these are the Google principles, and as I mentioned earlier, these are not only the principles that guides our product designs and innovation, they also guide our business strategies. Like what Meg was mentioning, whether it's AI principle or it's privacy principles, these are principles that everybody that work at Google needs to be familiarized with. And if you want to have a job here, and our products, our services, they all go through very rigorous review, whether it's privacy review, security review, or other reviews, to ensure that they are in line with these principles and standards. And finally, one point about the safety aspect of all of our products and services. I think a lot of you are aware that all our products and services have what we call community standards, and then product policies. We continue to review those policies on an ongoing basis. We collect inputs from experts like yourself, from governments, from academics, and we use those input to when we review our policies in order to further perfect our guidelines. So, and those are the guardrails that make sure that our product policies, our products are not used for by bad actors to harm users.
Okay, thank you very much for all the great sharing and discussions. I think we need to end our session here now. So thank you for all your participations, and also thank you for all our great panelists. Thank you. Hello. This session has concluded. The shuttle bus to the reception will be available now. Please proceed to the first floor and follow the steps instruction to abroad the shuttle. The last shuttle bus will depart at 6:20.